Chapter 779, Awe of the Bloodsword Sect. What the Grand Elder had said was extremely logical, to which the President slightly nodded. The President said with a dark expression, "Looks like the Tsar family's determination to eliminate Yang Yutian has already reached a level where they ignore the consequences. They first gave Tsar Telos the attack of a Saint King to take into the artifact space, and after learning that it had failed they've actually invited experts from the Bloodsword Sect. Aren't they capable? The Bloodsword Sect's already disappeared for 1,000 years. Even our Radiant Saint Master Union can't find them, yet the Tsar family can. The baleful force of the Bloodsword Sect is extremely powerful. It can catch people off guard. Even Yang Yutian's defensive treasure will probably be rendered useless once they use baleful force. There'll only be death when that happens." The Grand Elder's expression was very ugly. The Tsar family. The President grinded his teeth, while the coldness in his eyes became even icier. With a swing of his hand the tightly closed window opened, and he flew out on a cloud. "We must stop the Bloodsword Sect. For the Union's future, nothing can happen to Yang Yutian." "President, I'll go with you," the Grand Elder said as he followed closely behind the President. In the same moment the two left, 3 people of different ages flew out from the huge castle. They seemed to fuse with the surrounding space, quickly disappearing without a trace. They tailed the President and the Grand Elder. Their departure naturally was noticed by the Saint rulers waiting for the competitors around the square. In the crowd, Elder Lu of the Kara clan watched as the group traveled into the distance and mumbled, "The Bloodsword Sect has actually reappeared after disappearing for 1,000 years. Perhaps the Bloodsword Sects decided to return to the Tian Yuan continent and relive their former glory? The Tsar family's determination to eliminate Yang Yutian really is strong." With that, Elder Lu became blurry. He disappeared in the blink of an eye, having already fused with the space and leaving using spatial force. After Elder Lu, the Saint ruler old man from the Kazda clan also muttered unclearly before disappearing. He too traveled towards the direction of the baleful force. Afterwards, more Saint rulers around the square also departed. They were all people of relatively large clans from the other 2 capital cities of the Holy Empire and the Tian Yuan continent. They had only come to escort the Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters of their clan to the competition, but the sudden appearance of the Bloodsword Sect had raised their interest. They could not help but go check out what was going on. At the same time, a dozen or so ancestors of the 8 clans opened their eyes simultaneously from seclusion. They seemed to be able to see the outside sky despite the layers of obstructions, and their faces were filled with surprise, unconcealable shock, and disbelief. This is baleful force, the same baleful force that can only be used by the Bloodsword Sect of the 3 great assassination organizations. Has the Bloodsword Sect returned? This is baleful force. Perhaps the people are experts from the Bloodsword Sect? Why have they come to my city of God? What dense baleful force? Has the Bloodsword Sect finally returned after disappearing for 1,000 years? The ancestors all produced various exclamations of surprise. Shortly afterwards, they immediately came out of seclusion and shot towards where the Bloodsword Sect members were. In a huge, simple yet stately courtyard, the Grand Elder of the Tsar family sat on his bed in an empty room cultivating. An extremely mysterious aura enveloped the room, causing it to constantly distort as if the space inside was constantly moving about. Suddenly, the Grand Elder snapped open his eyes. Immediately, a seemingly corporeal spark shot from his eyes and pierced through the space in front. The fluctuating space in the room abruptly froze, and all the furniture in the room turned into piles of dust. Even the bed he was sitting on was not spared. The Grand Elder now hovered in the air with his legs crossed. He narrowed his eyes at the distance and said in surprise, "Baleful force. It's people from the Bloodsword Sect. They've actually reappeared on the Tian Yuan continent, and they've come directly to my city of God." Why? With that the Grand Elder disappeared from the room, going off in an unknown direction. Thousands of meters below the courtyard was a massive cavern. A huge palace flickering with purple light stood there. On it was the wear and tear of time. It had already existed for an unknown amount of time. Currently a beautiful middle-aged, purple-clothed woman sat floating in the air within the main hall of the palace. Her profound eyes seemed to pierce through everything, being able to see everything outside clearly. Suddenly, a white-robed old man appeared before the middle-aged woman. His gaze towards her was vaguely complicated and he said calmly, "Kaiyun, the people of the Bloodsword sect have appeared." "I know," the woman said uncaringly. She did not even glance at the old man. The old man's eyes dimmed at her reaction. He sighed gently, "Kaiyun, it's already been so long. Are you still unwilling to forgive your grandfather? I already know that I was wrong with the matter all those years ago, and I too feel a lot of regret. Your grandfather's already 5,800 years old, with only 400 years left to live at most. I do not wish for anything else in my life, only for your forgiveness before I pass away." The woman's face became even icier, while her gaze became a glare. She seemed to vaguely radiate an aura of destruction. The entire palace felt like a cavern of ice in that very moment, and the coldness from her seemed to be able to freeze souls. Even the huge purple palace trembled gently at that moment. Feeling the change to the palace, the old man gave out a long sigh. His eyes dimmed and he mumbled, "Looks like your grandfather wishing you to forgive him is just something impossible. AI, it's all my fault." The old man carried a regretful expression. After pausing for a while, the old man slowly recovered. He said softly, "Kaiyun, any thoughts on the matter about the Bloodsword sect?" "Leave. I will do what I need to do when I have to." The woman slowly closed her eyes. From the very start to the end, she did not even look at the old man. He looked at the floating Kaiyun with a complicated gaze and secretly sighed once more. Afterwards, he left the palace rather dejectedly. He could not help but remember what happened several thousand years ago. That was his greatest mistake in his entire life, filling him with regret even now. If time could flow backwards, he would take another choice without even the slightest hesitation. Unfortunately, the past was unchangeable. No matter how powerful he was, he could do nothing. Thousands of meters above the city of God was a crowd of people who stood in the sky without any external forces. The violent wind buffeted their clothes and their long hair fluttered in the wind. The crowd was split into 3 groups. The smallest group contained 4 expressionless, red-robed men with cold gazes who radiated with powerful baleful force. Opposite of the 4 men stood a dozen or so people of varying ages and attires, including the president and the grand elder of the union. They stood in the way of the 4 red-robed men, blocking their entry to the city of God. Another 7 people of different ages stood to the side. Some of them were the experts who originated from other cities of the Holy Empire, while the others came from lands beyond the Holy Empire. Where they stood was extremely smart, not offending either side. They seemed like people completely unrelated to the situation as they looked on calmly to see what was going to happen. The president and the grand elder both eyed the ancestors of 8 clans, feeling doubtful. Originally they had thought that the Bloodsword sect had been invited by the Tsar family and the 8 clans through a great price to handle Yang Yutian, but after seeing the people's expressions, they dismissed this thought. "Sirs, are you people of the Bloodsword sect? Why have you come to my city of God at this time?" The president clasped his hands at the 4 people. "We're the 4 protectors of the Bloodsword sect, and have come under the orders of the sect master to kill traitors of the human race. We hope you do not interfere." The 4 people spoke at the same time. Even before so many saint rulers they did not show any fear, not even the slightest fearfulness. Hearing the 2 words, sect master, the eyes of all the people present constricted. Fear and dread appeared in the depths of their eyes. "May I ask if the sect master is Senior Xiao Houston?" A saint ruler from the 8 clans asked carefully. His eyes were filled with dread. Correct. The 4 protectors said with one voice. Hearing that, all the people present changed in expression once again. They were not unfamiliar with the name Xiaofan. He was one of the few experts of the Tianyuan continent. I wonder what Senior Xiaofan is referring to be the traitors of the human race. I hope the 4 protectors may alleviate my thoughts. This time the speaker was the Grand Elder of the Tsar family, the old man who had pressured Jian Chen during his visit. We are unclear about the exact details. We have only come under the sect master's orders to kill them. We hope you do not obstruct us. This time, the speaker was a single person. His voice was cold and without any emotions. The people of the 8 clans all looked towards the Grand Elder of the Tsar family. In the city of God, the Tsar family was the true ruler. The 8 clans were all just subsidiaries under the Tsar family. The Grand Elder's expression became troubled. The reason why they had come was just too fishy, and the mentioned traitors of the human race only confused him very much. If he did not let them in, he would probably offend the Bloodsword sect, yet if he did let them in, the peace of the city would be completely destroyed once saint rulers began fighting, leading to countless people killed or injured. This was something the Tsar family definitely did not wish to see. After all, the 4 protectors of the Bloodsword sect were much more powerful than the saint rulers sent by the other 2 assassination organizations to kill Yang Yutian. The arrival of the 4 Bloodsword sect experts caused the Grand Elder to fall into a dilemma for a moment. Chapter 780, End of the competition. Just as the Grand Elder did not know what to do, his expression suddenly had a slight change. A sliver of courtesy appeared on his face before he spoke to the 4 protectors of the Bloodsword sect. For protectors, the ancestor of our Tsar family would like to extend an invitation for you to visit our Tsar family. The 4 protectors pondered a while before one of them said without any expression, "Lead the way." The 4 of them did not dare to act recklessly in the city of God. After all, the Holy Empire was not just any small nation. The Tsar family of the City of God were extremely powerful, ranking on top among all the ancient clans. The 4 of them did not want to offend the Tsar family before completing the sect master's orders unless forced to, or they would just earn a name of incompetence. The 4 people followed the people of the Tsar family and disappeared into the horizon. All the other people who had gathered also dispersed one by one, but they all pondered over something weird. They wondered what the traitors of the human race mentioned by the 4 protectors was about. Looks like the Bloodsword sect hasn't come for Yang Yutian. The president of the Radiant Saint Master Union relaxed slightly. Watching the 4 people disappear into the distance, the Grand Elder behind him commented, but the 4 of them have already been invited away by the Tsar family. They may not have come for Yang Yutian, but I worry that the situation will change after they leave the Tsar family. The president shook his head. It shouldn't. With my understanding of the Bloodsword sect, even when they need to assassinate people, they will only send people who have similar strengths to the target. They never send assassins who are much more stronger. Yang Yutian is still a Class 6 Radiant Saint Master. With their pride, they definitely will not stoop so low to kill a 20-odd-year-old junior. Most importantly, the Bloodsword sect's already stepped down and hasn't returned. As long as they don't return, they won't accept it. Then we don't need to worry. The Grand Elder relaxed secretly before following the president back to the headquarters. In a beautifully decorated room at the Tsar family, the 4 protectors sat quietly in seats to the side. They were received personally by the Grand Elder as a sign of respect towards the Bloodsword sect. The Grand Elder possessed an almost paramount status in the sect. He was the 3rd most powerful in the entire clan, only ranking below the ancestors. The family had already shown enough respect by getting him to receive the 4 protectors. The hall was currently empty. There was no one else other than the 4 protectors and the Grand Elder. A powerful barrier suddenly appeared and enveloped the entire hall. The 4 people sat there like normal, completely unalarmed. However, they were already filled with caution. I wonder if the sect master Xiaofan is still doing well. I, Tsar Milo, hope that when the 4 honored guests return you can help me ask about the well-being of the sect master. An old voice sounded in the hall, but no one was to be seen. Junior will personally tell the sect master what Senior has said. One of the protectors clasped his hands expressionlessly. For protectors, I wonder why you have come to my city of God? The old voice boomed once again. We have come to kill the traitors of the human race under the sect master's orders. The protector said. The old voice hesitated for a while before continuing. It's possible for our Tsar family to not interfere with your plans, but I hope we can make a deal before all this. The energy of the world began to move within the hall. A while later an image, completely coalesced from the energy, appeared before the 4 people. Seeing the image, the 4 people suddenly narrowed their eyes. However, they soon recovered to how they were before. This person is called Yang Yutian, and is an extremely talented radiant saint master. His existence obstructs the development of my Tsar family. I hope the 4 protectors can eliminate this Yang Yutian along the way. My Tsar family will definitely give a satisfying remuneration in return. The old voice boomed. Senior, we will not be accepting this mission. A protector declined the ancestors' deal without a second thought. He did not even spend any time to consider it. For protectors, as long as you complete the mission my Tsar family will definitely pay a generous price. You will not suffer any losses. The old voice boomed once again. Senior, our mission is to pursue and kill the traitors of the human race under the sect master's orders. We cannot accept other missions. Also, our Bluesword sect has yet to return to the continent. If Senior wants our sect to assassinate the person called Yang Yutian, Senior can only go and find our sect master. A protector said. If the 4 of you accept my deal, I can help you find the traitors. You would be able to complete the mission much easier with my help. The old voice boomed again, this time slightly hurried. Though he was a saint king, due to certain reasons his family was unable to assassinate Yang Yutian in the open. He could only find someone else to do the deed. The 4 protectors stood up simultaneously. One of them clasped their hands. Senior, if there is nothing else, the 4 of us will be leaving first. With that, they left the hall. Humph, Grand Elder, quickly go and organize some people to activate the concealing array and hide the presence of everyone in the city. Since the 4 protectors don't know what's best for them, I will not allow them complete their mission easily. Hearing that, the Grand Elder's expression changed slightly. He said rather anxiously, Ancestor, wouldn't this offend the Bloodsword sect? The concealing array is an array that protects our city of God. We, the Tsar family, are the ones in charge of the city of God, so is there anything wrong for us to activate it? The old voice said slightly gruffly. Very well, Ancestor, I will immediately go organize some people to activate the array. The 4 protectors left the Tsar family and walked on the street side by side. Those 5 old coots are just too good at hiding their presence. Finding them will not be easy, and there's just too many people in the city of God. There are presences all over the place. Wanting to find them precisely in such a populated area is just making something already difficult even harder. A protector said expressionlessly. I can only sense that the 5 traitors are in this city, but I can't find their exact whereabouts. It won't work if we continue like this. We should find a quiet place to use the secret technique and look for where they are. We need to complete the sect master's mission as soon as possible. We can't drag it out any longer. The 4 protectors immediately arrived in a location where no one was present. They sat cross-legged on the ground in a circle, and before each of them floated a long, blood-red awl. The 4 tips touched each other, forming a cross that rotated slowly. Suddenly, the 4 protectors spat out a mouthful of blood simultaneously and bellowed, Blood God's Guide. The four people's blood condensed together in the air very quickly before becoming a streak of blood-red light and flying off into the distance. "Follow quickly," a protector called out. Shortly afterwards the four of them became a single streak of red light, chasing after it. However, at this very moment, the sky above the entire city suddenly began to churn. The originally gentle energy of the world became violent. It greatly surprised all the experts in the city of God, causing them to raise their heads. The people of the Kara and Kazda clan were affected in particular. A certain light flickered in their eyes, and the two groups were already joining together to prevent any sudden attack from the Tsar family. This is the concealing array that can hide all presences. In the castle of the Radiant Saint Master Union, the white-robed president stood beside a window staring sternly at the sky. He mumbled, "The Tsar families suddenly activated the concealing array, probably both because of the four protectors from the Bloodsword sect, and because they want to start moving against the other two clans." At the same time, the protectors shooting through the sky at full speed came to a stop together. A sliver of anger finally appeared on their cold faces, and their gazes turned to an extremely sharp glare. It's the City of God's concealing array. It can hide all presences. The Tsar family activating this array right now clearly means that they want to prevent us from completing the sect master's mission. A protector said with a deep voice, while powerful killing intent began to radiate from his body. "This Tsar family is obstructing us on purpose. Once we get back I will definitely report it to the sect master without obscuring anything. I will ask the sect master to make a decision." The second protector also said with a deep voice. He too experienced unconcealable rage in his heart. "Let's not focus on this for now. We should think of ideas on how to find the 5 people. If we don't complete the mission, would we even have the dignity to return and report to the sect master? The Blood God's guide has failed. The City of God is huge, and they've already used the concealing array to hide the people's presences. How do we find them? Fly in the direction of the guide. We might be able to find them like that." In the blink of an eye, a whole 15 days had already passed in the Saint Artifact. It was the day that the competition would end. The surroundings of the square outside the Radiant Saint Master Union was already full of people in the morning, but the square itself was completely empty. It was the location where the competitors would appear. Currently, all the people gathered stared at the Saint Artifact at the very top of the castle in anticipation. Although it was not as lively as the gathering of mercenaries, the Radiant Saint Master competition every 50 years received a lot of attention as well. The people who placed in the top 10 received the attention of many different groups in particular because they were geniuses who had the chance to reach Class 7. There were only 24 or so Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters on the entire continent. The birth of every Class 7 Radiant Saint Master was something that would cause a huge commotion. To no surprise, the 5 old men who had come to the City of God to take refuge mingled in the crowd as well. They no longer carried anxious expressions. The activation of the concealing array was naturally sensed by them and caused them to become overjoyed. With the concealing array and their purposeful hiding of their presence, it would become extremely difficult for the 4 protectors to find them. It was one less problem they had to worry about while finding Jian Chen. This Yang Yutian seems to only be 24. Not only is he a Class 6 Radiant Saint Master, but he's also grasped the 3 great radiant arts and even tamed a beast of antiquity. I'm extremely curious about him. I really want to see what type of person he is. Old man Matang muttered to himself. Along the way they had heard too many rumors regarding Yang Yutian, which made them want to see what type of person Yang Yutian was. And that beast of antiquity. They're extremely rare on the Tian Yuan continent. I must see one personally. Old man Situ produced a light chuckle. He felt a sliver of anticipation. Although the time was passing slowly, it eventually reached noon. At that exact moment, powerful white light descended from the sky and directly rained onto the empty square. With each streak of white light a radiant Saint Master would appear, causing the empty square to be quickly filled. The white light continued to fall without any signs of stopping. Very soon, hundreds of competitors appeared on the square. Every single one of them was weary-looking and in horrible shape, clearly having suffered many hardships in the 15 days within the artifact. However, without any exceptions, every single person carried simple bags of different sizes made completely out of beast skin. They all contained high-class monster cores that the competitors had collected in the artifact. Suddenly, a rainbow appeared in the sky. 10 radiant Saint Masters of varying ages slowly descended from the sky in a pillar of rainbow light. Their appearance immediately attracted the attention of everyone present. This was because the 10 people in the rainbow light were the people who had collected the most points, the outstanding victors who had placed in the top 10. That's Yang Yutian. He really does have a small beast on his shoulder. Is that perhaps the beast of antiquity? A person suddenly cried out from the crowd. Immediately, all the people focused on the beast, their eyes filled with envy and admiration. When the 5 old men saw the white tiger, a sliver of light immediately flashed across their eyes. One of them muttered, "Why do I feel that the beast of antiquity is extremely similar to the cub mentioned by the Tiger King? If you look carefully on its back, there seems to be a pair of wings." There really is a pair of wings, though the beast of antiquity has hidden it very well. It's very hard to discover. A sliver of surprise appeared in Old Man Madang's eyes. After pondering slightly, he immediately said to Old Man Situ, "Situ, cast the great soothsaying technique again immediately. See if you can find him or not. I feel that the beast of antiquity is what the Tiger King wants." Hearing that, a sliver of light flashed across Old Man Situ's eyes. The concealing array's been activated, so my great soothsaying technique will definitely be affected. I will try my best. With that, Old Man Situ immediately closed his eyes and formed a weird hand seal. He began casting the technique silently, sensing for the presence of Jian Chen's bloodline. 3 seconds later, Old Man Sighty snapped over his eyes. 2 shocking streaks of light shot out of his eyes, disappearing with a flash. I finally found Jian Chen. He's actually Yang Yutian. Old Man Situ pointed to Jian Chen, who slowly descended from the sky in the rainbow light. He revealed unconcealable shock and joy. Chapter 781, The Nitpicking 8 Clans. What did you say? Yang Yutian is Jian Chen? The person behind Old Man Situ said in surprise. He was filled with disbelief. Correct. It's him, he's Jian Chen. It can't be wrong because when I used the blood from Jian Chen's parents as a guide for the great soothsaying technique, I could sense a strong presence of the bloodline on Yang Yutian. He must be Jian Chen. Old Man Situ was both overjoyed and surprised. He was overjoyed by the fact that they had finally found Jian Chen after searching for so long, and they could finally complete the mission from the Tiger King for the 2 remaining Class 7 monster cores, while he was surprised by the fact that Jian Chen, a fighter who had participated in the gathering of mercenaries, had suddenly become a prodigious Class 6 Radiant Saint Master. Even Old Man Situ felt rather overwhelmed with disbelief. If it were not for the fact that he had felt a strong presence of bloodline on Jian Chen, he would not have been able to connect Yang Yutian to Jian Chen at all. This was due to the fact that Radiant Saint Masters could not be fighters, and vice versa, on the Tian Yuan continent. It was an almost undeniable fact. Weird. Jian Chen is clearly a fighter, so how's he a Radiant Saint Master now? Another old man said. He too struggled to believe it. The 5 old men communicated using a communication technique so no one around them could hear what they were saying. Old Man Matting stared at Jian Chen with a complicated gaze. He was also very surprised by the fact that a fighter was also a Radiant Saint Master. After a period of silence, his mouth moved slightly. Since we found Jian Chen, that beast of antiquity on his shoulder must be the cub that the Tiger King wants. Yeah, it must be that tiger cub. It's exactly the same as how the Tiger King described it. Situ, Matting, it's such a great opportunity, so what are we waiting for? We might as well just all go for it, steal that beast cub and then leave immediately. An old man said rather excitedly. He had already waited too long for this day. We mustn't. Old man Situ shook his head without any hesitation. This is the city of God and the headquarters of the Radiant Saint Master Union. Also, Jianchen is regarded as very important in the Union. If we do it now, we'll be the ones who suffer a loss. Not only will we fail to take the cub, our lives might even end up on the line. You're right. Experts are extremely plentiful in the city of God. The Tsar family in particular still has powerful saint kings hidden away. We cannot be careless or we'll be doomed forever. We can only try to get the beast of antiquity through smart means, not by force, and if we do want to do it by force we definitely cannot do it here. Old man Matting said gruffly. Anyways, the 4 protectors won't be able to find us too any time soon with the concealing array of the city and our additional disguising of our presence. We might as well just settle down somewhere near the headquarters. I don't think Jianchen will stay in the headquarters forever. Even if he doesn't come out, I'll figure out ideas on how to lure him out. Things will be much easier after he's far away from the Union. I think that'll work. Let's do that then. If push comes to shove, we still have one final card to play. Jianchen is a fighter, after all, heh. The victors in the final top 10 slowly descended in the rainbow light while all the other Radiant Saint Masters around looked at them in admiration and envy. Quan Yukai also managed to place within the top 10. Currently, he was overjoyed and constantly thanking Jianchen. Of the 10 people, Quan Yukai was probably the one who had it the easiest. He just collected the points that originally belonged to Jianchen for free. The president strided out of the castle as several elders followed behind them. He glanced at the 10 people in rainbow light with a smile. Good, good, good. You're the most outstanding Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters for this competition. I hope some of you reach Class 7 in a year's time. The president looked towards Jianchen. Yang Yutian, your performance is extremely outstanding. I feel proud to be your master. Though that little beast on your shoulder has fooled me well. I never thought it was actually an extremely rare beast of antiquity. Even your master feels shocked. President, Yang Yutian has experienced many battles in the artifact. He must be exhausted. Why don't you quickly get him to rest? The Grand Elder said with a smile from the side, while his gaze towards Jianchen carried a mix of emotions. You're right. Yang Yutian, you should quickly go rest. The president chuckled, clearly extremely happy. Yes, master. Jianchen clasped his hands, before bidding farewell to Kara Liwei and Quan Yukai. He walked directly towards the castle. Wait. Suddenly, there was a loud voice from within the crowd. Over 10 people of different ages walked over to Jianchen. Seeing this, Jianchen frowned slightly. He was not unfamiliar with the people. They were the ancestors of the 8 clans. The president and Grand Elder also frowned slightly. A sliver of displeasure appeared in their eyes. The people arrived before Jianchen and all glared at him. One of them growled, Yang Yutian, all the people of the 8 clans died to your hands except for one. You need to provide us with an explanation. Jianchen's complexion darkened. He did not show any fear even before a dozen or so saint rulers. He said with a sneer, they wanted to kill me first before ending up like this. All you can say is that they have themselves to blame. You can't blame anyone else. Hearing Jianchen's tone and attitude, all the ancestors darkened in expression immediately, narrowing their eyes at Jianchen. Amir Jr. was speaking to them like that. That could not be forgiven. If it were not for the fact that the president was present, they would definitely have taught Jian Chen a solid lesson. A red-robed, middle-aged man growled, "Yang Yutian, we of the 8 clans are not unreasonable people. We know that our people fell to a beast of antiquity, not you, so we won't be troubling you. We only need to punish the murderer as retribution for what happened with the 8 clans." With that, the man arrived before Jian Chen with a flash and extended his hands towards the white tiger with lightning speed. He wanted to take Jian Chen by surprise and take the beast of antiquity. It was no different from daylight robbery, but the 8 clans had enough reasons to justify it. A sliver of grim light flashed across Jian Chen's eyes. Just as he was about to react, a transparent barrier suddenly appeared, enveloping Jian Chen inside. The man's hand was unable to continue any further after it touched the barrier. He was unable to break the barrier protecting Jian Chen with his strength. Roar! At the same time, the white tiger suddenly stood up on Jian Chen's shoulder. Its originally bright and innocent eyes became flooded with viciousness instantly. The tightly folded wings suddenly opened and, with a flash of white light, the white tiger had already passed through the barrier to arrive in front of the man. It swung its sharp claws at the man's face. The man sneered and said with disdain, "Even a mere Class 6 magical beast dares to act so recklessly before me. So what if you're a beast of antiquity? You're still as insignificant as an ant." With that, the surrounding space immediately began to solidify. He attempted to use spatial force to forcefully trap the tiger in the air. He completely looked down on it with his pride as a saint ruler. After all, the difference of strength between the two of them was just too great. Those below Saint Ruler were ants. However, what happened next shocked everybody. The white tiger was not affected by the solidifying space at all, arriving before the man without faltering in speed at all. As the man stared at it in shock, it left behind 2 deep claw marks with lightning speed before returning to Jian Chen's shoulder as a streak of white light once again, without even becoming perturbed during the process. The frozen space did not seem to even exist for the white tiger. The surroundings fell into a deathly silence. Everyone stared at the deep claw marks on the man's face blankly, the president and saint rulers of the 8 clans included. Their expressions were overwhelmed with disbelief. Not only did a Class 6 magical beast just injured a saint ruler, it had injured the person's face. This was like a solid slap to the saint ruler, an embarrassment that would stick with the person for the rest of his life. The red-robed man remained stunned for a while before returning to his senses. He felt a burning pain on his face and immediately exploded with anger. A dignified saint ruler just had his face raked by a Class 6 magical beast before everyone. It was so shameful that he even had the thought of killing himself. You goddamn beast. You're not going to be making it past today." Under his roaring rage and great embarrassment, the man fell into irrationality. With a roar, he struck at the white tiger with his full strength with no concern for the consequences whatsoever. "How dare you!" Suddenly, a weak, ancient voice boomed in the sky. With it, the space around the man immediately froze. Even with his strength as a saint ruler, he was helpless against the frozen space. He was caught tightly and immobilized completely. Suddenly, the frozen space shook. The man caught inside it immediately sprayed out a mouthful of blood and flew backwards. He was caught by a few saint rulers from the 8 clans behind him. The saint ruler ancestors of the 8 clans all became ugly in expression. The Saint King of the Radiant Saint Master Union had struck out. Unless the ancestor of the Tsar family was here, it would be extremely difficult for them to benefit from the situation at all, but the ancestor was extremely fearful of the Radiant Saint Master Union president. It was impossible for him to appear. 8 clans, do you still want my disciple to provide you retribution for what happened in the artifact? The president said expressionlessly. Chapter 782, Breaking the Ancient Vow. The ancestors of the 8 clans all became sheet white before leaving with darkened complexions. The people from the Tsar family never appeared. After seeing that no one from their clan returned from the artifact, they had left without a sound. Many Tsar family people had died in the artifact, but they were the ones in the wrong after all. They had already violated the rules severely by bringing in the power of a Saint King into the artifact. Even if anything happened to their own clan members, they could not say anything. They could only accept the losses as bad luck. However, after so many incidents, the strength and extraordinary characteristics of the white tiger had already been witnessed by many people. As a magical beast that had just reached Class 6, it had injured a saint ruler. While the saint ruler was careless when it all happened, it would still make the white tiger extremely well known, receiving the attention and admiration of countless people. In the crowd, Old Man Situ's group stared fixedly at the white tiger on Jian Chen's shoulder. Their eyes flickered with a weird light. No wonder the Tiger King wants us to get this beast of antiquity. It really is very powerful. Old Man Matting sighed gently. Old Man Situ glanced at the white tiger one last time before turning around and leaving. Let's go. It'd be useless if we stayed here. Let's go according to the plan. And never leak out Jian Chen's identity as a fighter unless you need to. None of us know how the Radiant Saint Master Union will treat him after they learn this. If they continue treating him as a member of the Union, Jian Chen would be able to use the power of the Union to handle us without needing to hide anything. That'd be extremely disadvantageous to us. If they treat him as an enemy, Jian Chen will definitely not be able to escape with the Union's power, and that beast of antiquity will naturally end up in the hands of the Union. That's something I definitely do not wish to see. So right now, the best thing we can do is wait until Jian Chen comes out of the Union before we move against him. Jian Chen returned to the castle without paying any attention to the matters outside. Currently he sat on the bed with his eyes closed, while his presence had already enveloped the entire Union. A while later, Jian Chen opened his eyes slowly. He murmured, "There seems to be some changes to the entire city. I can't clearly sense the presence of those experts, and Yun Tian's not actually in the castle. I wonder where he's hiding. Whatever. There's one more year until the seal of the artifact opens. I can only absorb the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force to reach Class 7 at that time, so I'll just stay here peacefully for the next year." In a hidden basement within the simple courtyard of the Tsar family, Yun Tian was currently discussing some things in secret with an internal elder of the Tsar family. "Yun Tian, are you sure you want to do this?" The internal elder sat opposite of Yun Tian, looking at him with a smile. Resolution appeared in Yun Tian's eyes. "As long as your Tsar family eliminates Yang Yutian, I, Yun Tian, will immediately lead the Union to join your Tsar family after I become president. But if there are any people who object at that time, I hope your Tsar family can help me handle it." Sure. This definitely won't become a problem. Yun Tian, as they say, those who react pragmatically are wise. You've done very well in this aspect, much better than your master. Don't worry. Since you want to join my Tsar family wholeheartedly, my Tsar family will definitely treat you well. In the future you'll still maintain full power over the Union, but other than the identity of Union President you'll have a second one, that of a member of the Tsar family. I hope you can remember this, the internal elder said with a smile. The fourth elder does not need to worry at all. We need to eliminate Yang Yutian as soon as possible. Otherwise, once he reaches Class 7 it'll be much more harder to eliminate him. Yun Tian said. Our Tsar family has its own plans. You do not need to worry. The fourth elder said. Yun Tian did not return to the Union after leaving the Tsar family. Instead he settled down in an inn relatively far away from the headquarters. He no longer dared to return to the Union with what he had done to Jian Chen. He was afraid of Jian Chen shaming and taking revenge on him. Yun Tian sat on a bed within a luxurious bed while his lips curled into an icy smile. He thought, Tsar family, although you're powerful, it won't be easy for you to control me. I'm only using you to eliminate Yang Yutian. Within the saint artifact, the white-robed artifact spirit currently stood at the highest point of his palace, staring down at the six-colored star formation with a mixed expression. The six-colored star formation was the vow he had made very, very long ago with a powerful radiant saint master. The ancient vow restricted his movements, which had made him protect the radiant saint master union silently for countless years. If it was before the competition, the artifact spirit would not have even imagined breaking the vow. However, after he discovered the sword spirits and the terrifyingly powerful corpses that were felled by the sword spirits in the void, his mind began to change. This was because the images showed him an even wider world and made him understand that there would always be greater things elsewhere. He was no longer willing to stay here and dwell in narrow-mindedness. As a result, other thoughts invaded his mind. He was unwilling to stay alone, unwilling to remain all by himself. He wanted to find even vaster lands. The artifact spirit stood in front of the formation silently for a very long time while his eyes became brighter and brighter. Clenching his fists tightly, he said huskily, "I need to destroy this seal that's binded me for countless years so I can regain my freedom." With that, the energy within the entire space became extremely wild, gathering towards the hall with an unbelievable speed. In the blink of an eye, the majestic hall was filled with energy ripples of destruction. With the devastating amount of energy, the entire hall just disintegrated. All that was left behind was a huge formation floating in the sky, while the surrounding land of 100 meters had become a 9-meter-deep ditch. This shocked all the living organisms within the space. All the magical beasts could feel the difference, whether strong or weak. On the very peak of a sword-shaped mountain, a burly, bare-chested middle-aged man stood up. He gazed into the distance and cried out in surprise, "Is this spirit going crazy? What is he doing?" In an underground cavern, an old man that was cross-legged and cultivating slowly opened his eyes. Two streaks of light shot from his eyes off to the distance and he mumbled curiously, "Just what does this spirit want to do? Why did it suddenly move so much energy? Is he insane?" Bang! Suddenly, an earth-shaking sound rumbled from the distance. A storm of destructive energy wreaked havoc in the distance, causing the entire space to shake. It was as if the world was going to collapse. Damn, has this spirit gone insane? Does he want to destroy the entire space? Within a forest, a burly, middle-aged man in tight robes called out. His face was extremely stern. "This ancient vow is too powerful. I can't break it all by myself. All Class 8 magical beasts help me out. After it's broken, I'll let you all free." A great voice boomed through every corner of the artifact space. All the Class 8 magical beasts were at first stunned from hearing it, before immediately becoming overjoyed. Without the slightest hesitation they traveled towards the center of the space with their greatest speed. Meanwhile, the Class 7 magical beasts could only watch on enviously. Very soon, a dozen or so people of varying ages and attires gathered before the artifact spirit. They all stared curiously at the huge formation floating before them. "Sir Artifact Spirit, is it true with what you said? If we help you break this ancient vow, we'll recover our freedom?" The bare-chested man said gruffly, his voice filled with unconcealable excitement. "Correct. As long as you help me break this vow, I will send you all out immediately. You'll regain your freedom." The artifact spirit said seriously. "Alright, let's start then." All the Class 8 magical beasts displayed expressions of unconcealable excitement. Chapter 783, The Beast God Continent Invades, 1, over 10 Class 8 magical beasts gathered together. If this had occurred on the Tianyuan continent, it would be enough to shake the entire land and invite a wild storm, as each of these magical beasts was equivalent to a saint king. Such experts were extremely rare even with the entire continent in perspective. These magical beasts were born in the artifact space and matured within it. They had learnt long ago that there was an even vaster world outside the artifact, and they too had once anticipated in leaving the artifact to see the vaster world. However, they were trapped in this space, and even if they all worked together it was impossible to break out. As a result, they could only endure it silently, living their lives out like prisoners. However, the artifact spirit had offered them freedom. This was something no one could resist. All the Class 8 magical beasts in the artifact had gathered, even those who always remained in seclusion came out. Gaining freedom and exploring an even vaster world had always been their dreams. No one would ever miss such a rare opportunity for it to come true. The ancient vow is extremely powerful. Even using all the energy in this space, I couldn't even shake it. All of you prepare to use your most powerful attack to assault this formation with me, the artifact spirit said sternly before controlling all the energy within the space once again. Immediately, the terrifying energy of destruction began to gather in the surroundings once again, quickly condensing into a meter-wide fist under the spirit's compressment. Energy of destruction radiated from the fist. It distorted space, annihilating the sky. The entire space began to shake violently, causing the ground to crack and mountains to collapse. It seemed like the end of the world. The fist seemed to be able to destroy the world. Behind the artifact spirit, the human-shaped Class 8 magical beasts all became solemn. They glanced at the artifact spirit in shock, were astounded by the spirit's strength. Before the fist none of them even had the thought of resisting, as it was enough to easily obliterate them. Is this the power of Saint Emperors? All the magical beasts stared at the spirit with eyes filled with dread. What are you waiting for? The artifact spirit turned around and yelled at the magical beasts. With a jerk, the magical beasts did not hesitate at all and immediately condensed all their strength into their hands. As the magical beasts on par to Saint Kings began to move at same time, a terrifying pressure pervaded the entire space. It caused countless beasts to tremble while the surrounding energy of the world and radiant saint force fell into utter chaos. The space trembled more and more violently as it distorted severely while it became flooded in darkness where the magical beasts stood. The space had already been destroyed, revealing pitch-black void. Do it! The artifact spirit cried out, before striking out along with the magical beasts. The terrifying charged-up energy rippled out violently with the force of destruction as the huge fist and the various beast heads and weapons condensed by the magical beasts collided with the six-colored star formation. Boom! A deafening sound reverberated across the entire space. Suddenly, the formation exploded with a dazzling light, resisting the attacks desperately. A while later, the attacks dispersed into the air in the form of energy while the formation remained untouched. The powerful strike from over 10 Class 8 magical beasts and the great artifact spirit did not break the formation. Its toughness and strength was at a terrifying level. The ancient vow's energy is too powerful. The artifact spirit's expression became rather ugly. Looking at the unharmed formation, the magical beasts all became extremely stern. Shock overwhelmed them completely, the strength of the formation was just unbelievable. Let's do it again. I refuse to believe that we can't break this vow. If you all want your freedom, don't hold back at all. The artifact spirit gritted his teeth while his complexion became terrifying. As long as the vow remained, he would always remain tied up here. The magical beasts all looked at each other, every single one of them had a sliver of resolution. Shortly afterwards they all growled, turning back into their beast form. They had been trapped here for thousands of years, to them, nothing was more important than freedom. For freedom and for a vaster world they were willing to pay anything to break this vow, to return to their ancestors' lands, to see the outside world. The group of magical beasts did not lack any beast of antiquities. Of the dozen or so, 3 stood out the most. One of them was a 300-meter-long golden divine dragon covered in golden scales. It radiated with a terrifying, earth-shaking presence. He was the most powerful among the magical beasts, already a 9th heavenly layer Saint King. He was undebatably the most powerful within the artifact space, with only the artifact spirit himself able to suppress him. The second was a huge, 1,000-meter-long alligator covered in ink-black scales. Each scale had an extremely sharp spike, so it looked like a hedgehog with its countless tiny spikes. The alligator was a mutated king beast. It was not a beast of antiquity, but it was not any weaker than one. All it lacked was the inherited memories that beasts of antiquities possessed. The mutated alligator also possessed terrifying strength as an 8th heavenly layer Saint King. It was only second to the golden divine dragon in the artifact space. The third was a bird covered in roaring flames, a scorching divine phoenix. It was also a beast of antiquity, while the flames which covered it seemed to reach the very limit at which fire could burn at. It was able to scorch the void and burn everything. Its waves of heat even kept a few magical beasts at a certain distance, unwilling to approach it. The scorching divine phoenix was also extremely powerful. It too was an 8th heavenly layer Saint King. It stood equal to the mutated alligator in the artifact space. The Class 8 magical beasts had all turned to their beast forms, displaying their most powerful condition. Afterwards, they all struck at the formation with devastating attacks along with the artifact spirit without holding back at all. Under the powerful boom, the formation radiated with a dazzling light as it resisted desperately, but it did not break. Although it was just a formation, the toughness was unbelievable. The artifact space closely eyed the formation, while a sliver of joy slowly appeared on his face. He said, "I can feel that the energy of the vow has weakened slightly. Let's continue. We need to break this formation." The magical beasts continued to attack the formation violently with the artifact spirit without any pauses. Outside the artifact space, no one had discovered that the saint artifact hidden in the white ball of light was trembling violently above the huge castle. With every single attack the artifact would jerk violently. The battle occurring inside was greatly affecting the artifact itself. At the same time, in the very depths of the Cross Mountains, the Tiger King of the Gilligan clan that pursued Jian Chen sat cross-legged in a majestic hall. The light in his eyes flickered while his expression constantly varied. He was clearly making a decision. A month's already passed and there hasn't been any news of the winged tiger god. The 5 human saint rulers are still alive, but with their strength they should have completed my mission already with so much time. Looks like they've encountered problems with human experts. The Tiger King mumbled while his expression darkened soon after. He suddenly stood up and said, "I can't drag this out any longer. Since the human experts already know about the winged tiger god, it's impossible for the 5 saint rulers to complete this mission with their strength. I need to report back to the beast god continent." With that, the Tiger King immediately removed a piece of jade from his space ring with a flip of his hand. Suddenly, his heart jerked and he thought, since human experts have already learnt about the winged tiger god, they must have done things to prevent me from communicating with the beast god continent. Looks like my normal way of communicating won't work anymore. I need to use a secret technique. With that, the Tiger King suddenly disappeared. He reappeared in a hidden basement with a complicated formation in the very center of the room. The Tiger King arrived at it and spat out a mouthful of blood onto the formation. Using a secret technique to activate it, the formation began to turn immediately. It gave off a hazy light and soon afterwards, a dark, burly silhouette appeared in it. The person's appearance could not be seen. With the silhouette's appearance, time in the basement seemed to stop. Even the air seemed to freeze while a powerful pressure appeared vaguely, filling the entire room. As soon as he saw the black shadow, the Tiger King's face became filled with respect. He immediately fell to his knees with his face buried in the ground. With a courteous tone, he said, "Tiger King Anderkin greets the ruler." "Anderkin, was the matter with the winged tiger god successful?" The shadow said with a heavy voice. "Ruler, it was this one who did things badly. There have been changes of the matter of the winged tiger god. Experts of the Tianyuan continent have learned about it. With this one's powers, it is no longer possible to complete this mission. Ruler, please punish me. Tiger King Anderkin's tone was extremely polite. The shadow paused for a while before continuing, I understand. Don't worry any more about the winged tiger god, let me handle it. Since the experts of the Tianyuan continent wished to interfere with the matters of the beast god continent, I can't be blamed for ignoring the rule set down by the beast god and Mo Tianyun all those years ago. Chapter 784, The Beast God Continent Invades, 2, Yes, this one obeys. The Tiger King immediately relaxed slightly after seeing that the ruler had no intention of punishing him. Any particular movements from the man drowned in earthly pleasures and desires? The Black Shadow continued. Replying to the ruler, the Lord of Carnal Desires has undergone a very great change. According to the news I've received, he's already broken through many desires. Right now there's only rage, desire and lust bounding him. The Tiger King said courteously. Only he has some ability on the Tianyuan continent. At first he practiced the Pure Heart secrets from the Pure Heart Pavilion, but then he was expelled from the sect. He sank into the 7 emotions and 6 pleasures and, with that, he took off on a path practiced by no one ever before. In the end, he successfully reached Saint Emperor. Afterwards, he attempted to break free from the chains of the 7 emotions and 6 pleasures in order to exceed Saint Emperor. I just wonder if he'll really be able to reach the cultivation level he wants after severing himself from the chains of emotions and pleasures. The Black Shadow mumbled to himself, but soon after, he mocked, no one understands Saint Emperors better than me. How would it be easy to exceed Saint Emperor and become like the 4 great experts of the ancient times? Once this path lord frees himself from those carnal boundings he'll grow much stronger, but he won't exceed Saint Emperor. With that, the shadow slowly disappeared while the flickering formation began to dull. Very far away from the Tianyuan continent was a similar piece of land. The continent was not any smaller than Tianyuan, but the difference was that almost 80% of it was covered in dense forests and vast mountain ranges with the remaining land as flat plains. Countless organisms lived on the continent. There were no humans, every organism, without exception, was a magical beast. The continent was originally inhabited by the 100 races in the ancient times before it was invaded by a group of magical beasts under the ancient winged tiger god's command. They chased out the 100 races and hence renamed it as the Beast God Continent. In the very center of the continent a majestic palace hung at an altitude of over 10 kilometers, radiating with light in all directions. It was extremely large, reaching into tens of kilometers in both length and width. It seemed more like a small city. This palace was called the Beast God Hall and was something that was irreplaceable in the Beast God Continent. It was personally forged by the ancient winged tiger god from the essence of the ground and became a holy land to all the magical beasts on the continent. At the same time, it was where all the experts of the continent cultivated. The palace had a total of 99 floors and each floor had a height of hundreds of meters. There were many rooms within it with passageways stretched throughout it. The entire system was extremely complicated, like a huge maze. Inside the 99-floored palace was a total of 98 people who cultivated there. They were the 98 strongest beings of the Beast God Continent, with even the weakest being a Saint King. They each took up a floor and were divided according to strength. The stronger one was, the higher one's floor would be. The ruler of the continent, the most powerful person in the entire land, lived on the 98th floor. The 99th floor was where the ancient winged tiger god lived. No one could enter it. It was said that the 99th floor possessed the legacy of the ancient winged tiger god and only beast gods with the blood of the winged tiger god could enter it. Currently, a black-robed, middle-aged man levitated in the air. He was on the 96th floor sitting with his legs crossed. Suddenly, an imposing voice boomed in the space. Lankiros, the news of the winged tiger god has broken out. I'm currently in a crucial moment of my seclusion, so I can't leave. Immediately gather the experts of the hall and go to the Tian Yuan continent for the winged tiger god. The man slowly opened his eyes. Ruler, do we have to destroy the agreement set down by the ancient beast god and Mo Tianyun? The winged tiger god itself belongs to the beast god continent. You're only going to the Tian Yuan continent to bring back what belongs to the beast race. Nothing like this would have occurred if the Tian Yuan continent had cooperated. Since they're not cooperating, we can only destroy that ancient agreement. The heavy and imposing voice boomed in the room. The man paused for a while before continuing, "All right, I'll immediately lead people there." With that, the man disappeared. When he appeared once again, he was already standing before the main entrance to the 97th floor of the palace. He said, "Sangxiong, my old friend, perhaps I'm unwelcome." A while later, the door slowly opened. The man directly walked in. In the room of the 97th floor sat a ruddy old man. His eyes were currently closed as he floated in midair with a thick layer of golden light covering him. The black-robed man stopped 100 meters away and looked calmly at the old man. "Sangxiong, I'm paying a visit to the Tian Yuan continent. You might as well come with me. The Tian Yuan continent only has a single Saint Emperor, the Path Lord. You by yourself is enough, so why do you need me?" The old man remained with his eyes closed as he spoke indifferently. The black-robed man sighed lightly. "Sangxiong, you should know why I'm going there. You need to choose a side for the future of your Peng clan. The winged tiger god is the god of the beast god continent. The only reason why our beast god continent has been prosperous until even today is all because of the beast god. As a citizen of the continent, I would never do anything that disrespects the beast god. The Peng clan will not be participating." The old man said. "Sangxiong, is this your decision?" A sliver of impatience appeared in the man's eyes. Sangxiong slowly opened his eyes. He gazed calmly at the middle-aged man and said, "Lankiros, if you really do this, my Peng clan and your tiger clan will immediately draw clear lines between each other. It's not too late to change your mind." The middle-aged man sighed lightly before turning around and leaving. Sangxiong watched as the man disappeared into the distance. He said, "Lankiros, you must never forget that you are also a member of the tiger clan. You know exactly what the winged tiger god means to your clan. Don't become a traitor for some small gains." The man's expression did not change at all as he immediately left the 97th floor. "Sangxiong, how would you know about the secrets of my tiger clan? The winged tiger god is a member of my clan. My understanding of it is better than anyone else's. Entering the 99th floor doesn't need the bloodline power of the beast god at all. I only need a drop of its essence blood. There is indeed the legacy of the ancient winged tiger god on the 99th floor, but it's not just winged tiger gods that can obtain it. As long as you're a member of the tiger clan, you can obtain a part of it depending on your strength. I know the ruler wants to take the winged tiger god for himself, but he won't succeed because he's not a member of my clan. He'll be at his very weakest at the very moment he attempts to take it for himself, and that's when I'll strike. It'll still belong to me in the end." No one knew about these other thoughts in Lankiros's mind. As the strongest in his clan, he understood the winged tiger god the best. He knew so much that even the ruler of the beast god continent paled in comparison. After all, he was still a member of the same clan as the beast god. The beast god continent moved very quickly. Several dozen experts already followed Lankrios as he left the hall. They were all experts who cultivated in the tower. They all departed from their continent. Although the beast god continent was extremely far away from the Tian Yuan continent, it was nothing to Saint King's. With his strength as a Saint Emperor, Lankiros directly cut open a hole in space and created a long-distance space gate leading them to the Tian Yuan continent. In the sky above the Cross Mountains, the cloudless skies suddenly began to twist and turn violently. Shortly afterwards, a mottled space gate suddenly appeared before around 50 or 60 people of varying ages and attires stepped out. With their arrival, an extremely powerful presence immediately began to spread in all directions, covering a radius of over several million kilometers. There was also an even vaster presence that suppressed all of that, enveloping the entire continent and alerting the countless experts of the Tianyuan continent. In the outer regions of the Cross Mountains was a village by the name of Longevity Valley. Uncle Xiao, currently planting vegetables in the fields, suddenly jerked while his originally plain eyes turned into a glare. He stared fixedly into the depths of the mountain range, towards where the Gilligan clan inhabited. He became extremely stern and mumbled, "They've finally come. Never thought they'd come so fast." At the same time, in another space at Mercenary City, Tianjian, who levitated in the air as he cultivated, snapped open his eyes. Immediately, two streaks of seemingly tangible golden light shot from his eyes. He seemed to be able to see through the void, able to see what was going on outside the space. With a slight shift, Tianjian immediately appeared outside the palace, floating in the air. He said with a clear voice, "The Beast God continent has come. All elders gather immediately with me to go meet the enemies." In the City of God, the middle-aged beauty who levitated in an underground palace snapped open her eyes. She gazed into the distance in shock, while her expression was extremely stern. "This is the presence of Class 8 magical beasts. The Beast God continent has intruded into our Tianyuan continent, and there's even a Class 9 magical beast equal to a Saint Emperor among them." An old voice boomed from the side while an old man had already appeared before the woman soundlessly. Several tens of thousand kilometers away from the City of God, a middle-aged man stood in a small wooden hut staring at the faraway sky. He too carried an extremely serious expression. With a heavy voice, he said, "They're all presences of magical beasts, and there's even one that makes me feel fear. It should be a Class 9 magical beast. Has the Beast God continent come invading?" He was Hao Wu, the person who had traveled to a continent inhabited by the 100 races and obtained the essence blood of a Class 8 beast of antiquity for the Grand Elder of the Radiant Saint Master Union. Chapter 785, The Beast God Continent Invades, 3. The experts of the Beast God Continent invading alerted all the powerful experts of the Tianyuan continent, especially due to the fact that Lankiros's presence as a Saint Emperor enveloped the entire continent. All those that were saint rulers could feel the trembling of their souls and the fear from deep within. In the headquarters of the City of God, Jian Chen was currently discussing everything he had encountered in the artifact space with the President and Grand Elder. Suddenly, the expressions of the closely listening President and Grand Elder changed dramatically. They stood up without any warning and hurried to the window. They stared into the distance in shock and extremely solemn. What vast presence! This is the presence from many Class 8 magical beasts. The Grand Elder said gruffly, overwhelmed in shock. As soon as he finished, an even vaster presence that made the very depths of his soul tremble swept across the sky in an overbearing manner. It caused the Grand Elder's expression to change once again, because before this terrifying presence he could not even think of resisting. Just the presence itself had already defeated him. This might be the presence of a Saint Emperor. The President said in astoundment. Those must be experts from the Beast God continent. Is the Beast God continent invading our continent? The Grand Elder said hoarsely. Sitting to one side, Jian Chen could also feel the assault of countless powerful presences from far away. He became extremely grim, his complexion becoming as dark as well water. He knew that the experts of the Beast God continent had come, and that they were here for the White Tiger. There aren't many who can recognize the White Tiger, but its special characteristics just stand out too much. If they announce the news of the Winged Tiger God, I'll become the center of attention for many people very soon. A light flickered across Jian Chen's eyes and he became uneasy. The beast god continent had come too far, far beyond his expectations. He was no longer afraid of exposing his identity, now he only worried that he was no longer able to wait a year for Class 7. He needed to reach Class 7 to revive his parents. In an unknown space in the Tian Yuan continent, a plain-looking middle-aged woman slowly opened her eyes. She slowly spoke with a calm voice which reverberated through the entire space. The beast god continent has invaded our Tian Yuan continent. Immediately contact the Shenxiao sect, the Padian sect, the Yangji sect, the Yuan sect, the Tyrant's Blade School, the Heartless School, the Heaven's Incense School, the Chongyang clan and the Moyuan clan. Tell them to prepare to face the enemies. All disciples that are Saint Ruler or above, follow me to the Tian Yuan continent. Yes, Pavilion Master. One voice resounded in the space, but it originated from various places. The 10 protector clans of the Tian Yuan continent released the seals on their spaces and countless experts entered the Tian Yuan continent to repel the beast god continent's invasion. Spread the word of the 10 protector clans, all human experts of the continent gather at the Cross Mountains. In the very moment that the 10 protector clans appeared, a gathering was also called by them to gather all the powerful people of the continent. Currently, in an ancient mountain range, an old man sat cultivating in a cave. He was not very strong as he was only a heaven saint master. At that moment, a giant space gate quickly formed in the sky above the mountain range. Countless figures with monstrous presences shot out from it before disappearing in the blink of an eye. Inside the cave, the old man seemed to sense it and suddenly opened his eyes. His excitement could no longer be concealed and he said, "Fantastic." The Yangji sects finally unsealed the space. The branch sect created under the Elder's instructions was destroyed, and now I'll report it. No matter who it is, my Yangji sect will never let him live. They'll massacre his whole family. With that, the old man immediately left the cave. Using the surrounding energy of the world he dragged himself towards the huge space gate as he bit his thumb. Out shot a droplet of blood towards the space gate, and he said courteously, "Disciple of the Yangji sect has returned. I have important matters to report to the elders." A huge pillar of light wrapped around the old man, sucking him into the space gate. In the depths of the Cross Mountains the several dozen experts from the beast god continent all hung in the air, staring into the distance at the endless land. Meanwhile, all the magical beasts of the Gilligan clan appeared from various areas in the form of humans, standing to one side courteously. The arrival of the experts had alerted all the powerful people of the Tian Yuan continent. The reactions of the 10 protector clans and the mercenary city were extremely quick. The space above the Cross Mountains began to distort violently after a few mere seconds. Space gates constantly appeared as people of varying ages and attires walked out. Each of them radiated with a vast presence, causing the space to tremble. In a short period of time, hundreds of human experts had appeared above the Cross Mountains. They all stood in many groups and factions, facing the outsiders from the beast god continent. There were 11 groups with the most people. Each group had around 20 to 30 people. They were either from Mercenary City or the 10 protector clans. The other 3 groups were relatively fewer in people, they were from the 3 empires of the continent. Without any surprise the middle-aged woman from the Tsar family was also there. Beside the woman stood a ruddy old man. He was the other Saint King of the Tsar family. Around the 2 people from the Tsar family stood another 4 elderly people. They were the ancestors of the Kara clan and the Kazda clan. On the other side, Uncle Xiao stood in his simple clothes, followed by an old man in red robes. Behind the 2 of them were another 6 people also in red robes, radiating with a powerful baleful force from all over. Other than them, a few hidden ancient clans and individuals who never joined any particular organizations had also gathered to help repel the invading beast god continent. Although there were not many human experts, it was essentially a gathering of the peak existences of the entire Tianyuan continent. Lankiros eyed the people calmly. Even though the humans had completely exceeded the force he had brought from the beast god continent, he did not become grim at all and instead smiled icily. He said, "You experts of the Tianyuan continent move pretty fast. So many have gathered so quickly. Your beast god continent has already broken the agreement of not intruding set down by the city lord and the winged tiger god from years before. Please quickly leave the continent." The white-clothed Tian Jian spoke gruffly. According to the agreement between the city lord of Mercenary City and the winged tiger god of the beast god continent, it was he who had the most right to speak out. Lankiros sneered and said coldly, "Everyone, you must know of the intentions of our beast god continent. The ancient winged tiger god is the beast god of magical beasts, yet the experts of the Tianyuan continent instead obstruct my people from taking it back. Why do you do that?" "What, the winged tiger god?" What Lankiros said caused all the people present to be greatly surprised. A sliver of doubt and confusion appeared in their eyes. Only a few elders of the Mercenary City and Uncle Xiao remained as normal as they had already learned about the existence of the winged tiger god. Has the ancient winged tiger god appeared on our Tianyuan continent? All the people present were monsters that had lived for thousands of years. Their intelligence was on a devilish level, quickly understanding everything. Thoughts immediately began to flicker across the eyes of everyone present. Witnessing this, Lankiro's heart jerked slightly. He sneered, "Looks like there's still not many people who know about the winged tiger god. Whatever, my beast god continent also does not wish to break the agreement from all those years ago. We only hope that your continent does not obstruct our search for the winged tiger god. We'll leave immediately after we find it. The Tianyuan continent is territory of the humans. It's not a place for your beast god continent to behave wildly. We hope you can leave the continent. The 10 protector clans and Mercenary City will deal with the matter about the winged tiger god." The speaker was a plain, middle-aged woman, the pavilion master of the Pure Heart Pavilion. "Correct, the matters of the Tianyuan continent does not require interference from your beast god continent. Please quickly leave the continent. We will give you an explanation for the winged tiger god after we confirm it." The speaker was an old man, an ancestor of a protector clan. He had reached the peak of Saint King long ago and was only an inch away from Saint Emperor. Lankiros sneered, "Since you don't intend to oblige, don't blame me for going too far." As he spoke, Lankiros pointed towards the old man. A huge tiger claw condensed in that very moment, swinging at the old man with an earth-shaking force. The claw seemed ordinary, yet it carried the laws of the world and concealed countless mysteries. Inside it rippled a terrifying energy capable of destroying worlds. As the claw fell, it destroyed the surrounding space, turning it all pitch black. The peak Saint King from the protector clans became extremely grim. Just the claw brought an immeasurable pressure to him. He could not even conjure the thought of resisting the strike. Only an inch separated the very peak of Saint King and Saint Emperor, yet this inch was a bottomless chasm. My Tianyuan continent is not somewhere you beast god continent experts can act recklessly in. Saint Emperor of the Tiger Clan, I am your opponent. Why move against juniors? A scholarly, graceful voice resounded in the sky. With the voice, a 10-meter-wide fist quickly condensed, shooting towards the claw at a devastating speed. A sliver of light flickered across Lankiros's eyes and he spoke with a clear voice, "Path Lord of Carnal Desires, you've finally come. As the only Saint Emperor of the Tianyuan continent, allow me to try you." The trajectory of the claw changed, rushing towards the giant fist with an sky-shattering presence as it ripped through the void. The collision of the fist and claw did not produce any world-shaking explosions. Instead, the space turned into pitch black. The strike from the two Saint Emperors had completely destroyed the space there. "Path Lord, this place is too small. Let's fight outside the atmosphere." Lankiros laughed aloud. He turned into a streak of light, shooting off into the sky and disappearing in the blink of an eye. Everyone, chase them out of the Tian Yuan continent. After the two Saint Emperors departed, a devastating battle also exploded between the 10 protector clans and the magical beasts of the Beast God continent. Although there was a huge disparity between the strength of the two continents, the experts of the Tian Yuan continent did not feel any fear at all. Chapter 786, The Battle Ceases. The battle in the depths of the Cross Mountains was extremely intense. It was in a state of absolute chaos where even the sun and moon seemed to dim, alarming the entire continent. Even millions of kilometers away people could clearly feel the terrifying ripples of energy from the battle. The experts of the Tian Yuan continent battled with the high-class magical beasts of the Beast God continent from dozens of kilometers above the Cross Mountains to the sky of the Northern Ocean. The entire region seemed to be turned upside down, like water flowing backwards. Great waves formed constantly, causing water levels to fall by 9 meters for the entire region. Meanwhile, the earth-shaking roars of magical beasts shattered the surrounding space, resounding from the sky one after another. Moreover, the outer space battle between the Path Lord of Carnal Desires and the Tiger Emperor Lankiros was extremely intense. Even though no one could see them, frightening ripples of energy erupted constantly in the blue sky, causing the entire region to distort. Every time the two Saint Emperors clashed, it contained the power of destroying worlds, able to easily void a region of space itself. Both battles, no matter in the ocean or in outer space, shocked the entire continent. Not everyone knew about the Beast God continent invading, it was only limited to Saint rulers. Heaven Saint Masters and those below could sense the terrifying explosions of energy from the distance, but they had no idea what was going on, causing all the people to become oddly panic-stricken. Jian Chen was uneasy remaining in his room in the Radiant Saint Master Union headquarters. From the very moment the invasion had begun he had already been rather restless. He had no idea what the 10 protector clans would do when they found out he had the winged tiger god. But no matter what actions they would take, Jian Chen believed they were all extremely detrimental to himself. Even if the experts from the Beast God continent were repelled, they would not let the winged tiger god remain with him and most likely take it for themselves before attempting to tame it. After all, the winged tiger god was an ancient beast god. There would always be a day in the future where it would exceed Saint Emperor, and controlling the winged tiger god also meant directly controlling the entire beast god continent. I hope bad things don't happen too soon. Just 1 year. I only need 1 year, Jian Chen thought. Currently, all he could do was pray in his heart. He knew he was as weak as an ant before the Beast God continent and the 10 protector clans, possessing no power to resist at all. Never thought that Beast God continent would actually come invading our continent. But this has nothing to do with the 5 of us. We only need to complete the Tiger King's mission. Just monitor Jian Chen without worrying and find an opportunity where we can do it. Old Man Situ's group all muttered in their hearts in the inn outside the Union headquarters. At the same time, the 4 protectors of the Bloodsword sect that were still in their difficult search for Old Man Situ also raised their heads to look into the distance from time to time. Once we finish the mission, we need to immediately head to the Northern Ocean to assist the sect master in repelling the Beast God continent. The concealing array of the city remained activated, concealing the presences of everyone inside the city. The 4 people were unable to use secret techniques to find Old Man Situ's group, so they could only slowly comb through the entire population like searching for a needle in a haystack. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. The giant battle at the Northern Ocean continued. The battle between hundreds of experts had caused the energy of the world in a radius of several millions of kilometers to fall into disorder. All the fighters in the region were no longer able to absorb any of it for cultivation. Boom! A great crack, like a bolt from the blue, reverberated across the entire sky. It filled the entire region with an energy of destruction while giant cracks began to appear in the sky. Its blueness turned into a pitch black instantly, forming a grand scene that had not been seen for countless years. Shortly afterwards, two resplendent streaks of light fell from outer space. With lightning speed, they directly arrived at the sky above the sea. They were the Path Lord and the Tiger Emperor. Currently, they both were surrounded by a coat of dense rainbow light obscuring their appearances. The terrifying pressure from them caused the world to tremble while the surrounding space to distort. The very pressure itself was enough for the space to collapse. The great battle that had persisted for 3 days also came to a rest with the return of the Path Lord and Tiger Emperor. Although the violent battle had alarmed the entire continent, surprisingly no one had died, though there were quite a few injured. All the experts of the Tianyuan continent had come, but at least they gained the upper hand against less than half of the Beast God continent. What they currently wanted to do was to repel the Beast God continent, not to take a fight to the death. Once heavy injuries and death occurred, the situation would become much more severe. If the two continents truly went to war with each other, the Tianyuan continent would suffer great losses in the end, even if they played their final cards in repelling the Beast God continent. Path Lord, you're much more powerful than I imagined. The Tiger King's voice was rather gruff. Even though his face was hidden, his complexion was definitely not great. He had fallen to a disadvantageous position in his battle against the Path Lord of carnal desires. Tiger Emperor, take your people back to the continent where you belong. The Path Lord's voice was very plain and without any emotions. His voice was very scholarly and refined, and vaguely carried some femininity and malevolence. Path Lord, I've only brought half of the entire Beast God Hall this time. If all 98 of us are here, with all the experts of every clan, what will your Tianyuan continent have to repel us? You won't be able to fight us all even if the 10 protector clans and the mercenary city use the Emperor armaments. I must bring back the winged tiger god this time. If you still want to interfere, I'll gather all of them and declare full-out war against the Tianyuan continent. The Tiger King roared powerfully. He seemed extremely confident. However, no one knew that the confidence displayed vastly differed from the bitterness in his heart. The Beast God continent had a total of 3 great experts. They were the ruler of the continent, the Saint Emperor Tsangqiong of the Peng clan, and himself, the Tiger Emperor of the Tiger clan. Similarly, the Beast God continent was divided into 3 factions that were each ruled by one of them. The continent was controlled between the 3 Saint Emperors. The ruler was the most powerful among the 3, so he controlled the most powerful faction of the continent. After him was the Saint Emperor of the Peng clan, controlling a second faction. Tsangqiong was only second to the ruler. Meanwhile, he, the Tiger Emperor, controlled the weakest faction. Currently, the ruler was in a crucial moment of his seclusion. He was unable to leave until he made a breakthrough, so he was temporarily unable to interfere with the matters of the Tianyuan continent. In addition, Tsangqiong stood on the side of the winged tiger god, which made it absolutely impossible for him to do anything detrimental to the winged tiger god. The Tiger Emperor even feared that Tsangqiong would instead appear in a crucial moment to help the winged tiger god by fending him off. As a result, only 2 of the 3 factions of the Beast God continent could be used to fight the Tianyuan continent. However, there were also several elders in both factions who worshipped the winged tiger god to a mindless level. If they learned about the true reason why he and the ruler wanted to bring back the winged tiger god, many voices of objection would appear, and there might even be some of them who would throw themselves at death in resistance. After all, the winged tiger god was the publicly acknowledged god of the continent. A few beast of antiquity elders who blindly worshipped it would definitely oppose them in doing anything detrimental to the winged tiger god. If this broke out in the land, the outcome would be extremely severe. Even the ruler would not be able to suppress it. Although the ruler was currently the most powerful on the continent and possessed very great prestige, he was still very far away from the winged tiger god in the eyes of most citizens on the continent. The winged tiger god was essentially God to the continent. It was he who had led all the magical beasts to such a prosperous present day. As a result, the Tiger Emperor had only brought half of the experts from the Beast God Hall this time. Combined, they were all of the most trusted high-class magical beasts of both factions. The Tiger Emperor did not bring along any other experts because he feared that they would announce his plan with the ruler once they learned about it and, as a result, bring on some negative effects. They would be cursed and spat on by the entire continent. If the Tian Yuan continent was unwilling to step aside in this attack, he could only wait for the ruler to come out of seclusion before reconsidering something else. However, the experts of the Tian Yuan continent had no idea about these hidden facts of the Beast God continent. The Pure Heart Pavilion Master stepped forward and said calmly, "We, the Tian Yuan continent, will help you search for the winged tiger god of your Beast God continent, but you cannot take even a step onto the continent." Hearing that, Lankiros paused for a long while. Afterwards, he agreed, "Okay then. Because of the ancient agreement, I'll believe you all this time. I give you all 3 months. I hope you can find the winged tiger god in this time and hand it over to the Beast God continent." Finally, the grand battle that had lasted for 3 days came to a close. The experts of the 2 continents had reached an agreement where the Beast God continent would no longer attempt to intrude on the Tian Yuan continent, but they had to hand up the winged tiger god. With the battle ending, the experts all dispersed off in various directions. However, the 10 protector clans all gathered in Mercenary City under the invitation of the city's Grand Elder. In a space opened up in Mercenary City, the white-clothed Tian Jian currently sat with the representatives of the 10 clans around a conference table in the floating palace he cultivated in. "Everyone, the winged tiger god has appeared once again, and this time on our Tian Yuan continent. I wonder how everyone feels about this." Tian Jian said with a clear voice. "The winged tiger god is an ancient beast god. When it fully matures, it will exceed Saint Emperor. In the ancient times, our continent had an expert like Mo Tianyun protecting it, so we did not fear the beast. Now that Mo Tianyun is gone, what power do we have to rival it after it successfully matures? This is why we cannot allow the Beast God continent to obtain it," a grim, middle-aged man said gruffly. Chapter 787, Identity Exposed, Correct. We cannot let the winged tiger god be brought back to the Beast God continent. Otherwise, it'll become a grave threat to our continent. I also agree with that. We cannot let the experts of the Beast God continent take it back, no matter what. The middle-aged man's suggestion brought on the agreement of all the people present. Other than the pavilion master of the Pure Heart Pavilion, all of them agreed on not returning the winged tiger god. Then how does everyone plan on dealing with the winged tiger god on our continent? Tian Jian asked once again. If it's still young, then we'll tame it into a force of our own or force it into an ancient agreement. If the 2 methods mentioned don't work, we'll have to kill it off even if we end up offending the Beast God continent. Our Tian Yuan continent no longer has the power to repel a fully grown winged tiger god. An old man of the protector clans growled. He was extremely grim. According to what I know, the Beast God continent has a total of 3 Saint Emperors. One of them is the Tiger Emperor Lankiros, the weakest among them. If we, the 10 protector clans along with your mercenary city, use our emperor armaments, it should be enough to fend off Lankiros together. Next is the Saint Emperor of the Pen clan. He's stronger than the Tiger Emperor, but the Path Lord should be able to handle it. As for the strongest, the ruler of the continent, the protector of Mercenary City should be able to handle him, said an azure-robed, middle-aged man. Tian Jian paused for a while before following up, the barrier spirit that protects my mercenary city was left behind years ago by the city lord. It's already existed for countless years and no one knows just how powerful it's become. In my opinion, it should be strong enough to fight off the ruler. Since we possess the power to fend off the beast god continent's threat, let's hurry up and find the winged tiger god. A white-robed, ruddy old man said. Tianjian stared deeply into the old man's eye. After a slight hesitation, he said, "Everyone, I might have seen the winged tiger god many years ago. At that time it was still a cub and not very strong, but accompanying it was a talented young man that it was extremely close to. In my opinion, it wouldn't be difficult if we wanted to control the winged tiger god such that it would not threaten our continent. We could simply not worry and allow it to follow that young man. When it fully matures, it definitely won't do anything harmful to our continent because of the young man. No, we definitely can't leave it like that. The matter of the winged tiger god is extremely important. We can't let it be controlled just by a kid. Only when such a powerful beast god is in the hands of us protector clans can we relax." The azure-robed man immediately objected. "The winged tiger god cannot remain in the hands of that kid. Tianjian, you favor that kid so much, perhaps he has some connection with you?" The ruddy old man stood up and heavily objected what Tianjian had said. Tianjian eyed the old man and said, "You must be Changyang Qingyun of the Changyang clan." "Correct, I am indeed Changyang Qingyun." The old man said calmly, staring straight into Tianjian's eyes. Tianjian sighed lightly, "The one connected to that young man probably isn't me. Whatever, since everyone objects this suggestion, just treat it as if I didn't say it. My mercenary city will no longer be participating in how everyone handles the winged tiger god." After the 10 clans departed, they immediately passed orders to a few ancient clans to devote all their strength into searching for the winged tiger god. At the same time, they announced the special characteristics of the tiger. Receiving the order, the ancient clans then immediately passed it on to the hermit clans below them. The hermit clans then spread the same order to various kingdoms and sects of various sizes. The news spread in this layer-to-layer fashion and quickly reached all corners of the continent. It brought on an upsurge of people who searched for the tiger. More importantly, all the people knew about the characteristics of the winged tiger god. There were even a few kingdoms who sent their soldiers on a complete search across their lands, capturing all the magical beasts that matched the description of the winged tiger god no matter strong or weak, before getting their heaven saint masters to pass it all on to the hermit clans. The 10 protector clans all appeared. Large groups of disciples or members of the clans and sects left their always sealed space, stepping onto the continent to assist the search for the winged tiger god. At the same time, a middle-aged man floated in the middle of a space carved out on the Tianyuan continent. He wore long, white robes lined with gold, and he seemed refined and scholarly while also carrying slivers of malevolence. The man did not give off the presence of someone powerful at all. He seemed just like an ordinary person, but his floating body seemed to be fused with the space. He gazed into the distant void and his eyes flickered. He mumbled to himself, "The winged tiger gods reappeared, and it even appeared on the Tianyuan continent. It's a pity I left the Pure Heart Pavilion too early so I didn't get the chance to look through those ancient records that recorded the mysteries and rumors of the ancient times. Otherwise, I'd have a clearer understanding of it and it'd be much easier to search for it. The 10 protector clans are searching for the winged tiger god. After they find it, I just need to steal it from them and force the tiger into an ancient agreement. I can't just let this winged tiger god be taken advantage by the beast god continent nor those protector clans." In the city of God, news regarding the winged tiger god echoed throughout the entire city. Discussions of the tiger could be heard on all the streets, big or small. In the Radiant Saint Master Union headquarters, Jian Chen was lying on his bed and slowly opened his eyes. His complexion darkened. Although the City of God had activated the concealing array, it could only hide the presence of people. His presence of sensing things remained unaffected. He clearly sensed the situation within a radius of 20 kilometers, so naturally he had learned about the news of the winged tiger god from all the people. The situation's developing at an unexpected speed. I can't stay in the Union any longer, Jian Chen thought to himself. He stood up immediately afterwards and left the Union with the white tiger in his hand. In the very moment Jian Chen left the fifth story of the Union, the President and the Grand Elder both exited from their rooms silently. They stared in the direction where Jian Chen had disappeared off to with complicated expressions, and after a long pause they finally produced a soft sigh. Looks like that the beast of antiquity on Yang Yutian's shoulder is probably the winged tiger god that the protector clans want, the Grand Elder said with a gentle voice. The President nodded slightly. Should we try persuading Yang Yutian to hand up the winged tiger god? It'll prevent a lot of trouble. I don't believe that he would give it up so easily. His relationship with the tiger has already reached an extremely close level. Trying to persuade him would just be a waste of words. Also, the protector clans right now just want the winged tiger god. With their statuses, they won't harm him. The Grand Elder said. I hope so. The President said gently. Although he now knew the identity of the winged tiger god, he did not report to the protector clans, nor did he stop Jian Chen from leaving. He was a man at the end of his life. He understood many things, and had already let them go. The Union had some power in resisting the Tsar family, but the Union would not even think of resisting the protector clans. Jian Chen descended from the fifth floor, arriving in the huge lobby at the ground floor. He directly walked out of the Union. Along the way, all the Radiant Saint Masters Jian Chen passed by in the surroundings gave him a weird look. However, the majority of the gazes focused on the white tiger on Jian Chen's shoulder while they all began discussing about it. Why do I feel like the beast of antiquity on Yang Yutian's shoulder is similar to the winged tiger god? They're both tiger magical beasts, and if you look at the back of it, there really seems to be a pair of wings. Wow, you're right. I also feel like they're quite similar. The wings are hidden extremely well, but if you look carefully you can still see them. Still though, how would an ancient beast god yield to a human with its pride? I think that the magical beast on Yang Yutian's shoulder is just a beast of antiquity. It just looks very similar to the winged tiger god, that's all. After all, of the countless magical beasts that exist on the continent, there's quite a few that mutate. It's nothing weird to have two magical beasts that look the same. That's true too. It's probably just a coincidence. After all, the ancient beast god is as powerful as Mo Tianyun. How would they yield to us humans with their pride? Also, Yang Yutian's beast of antiquity has already reached class 6. It's not like the rumored ancient beast god cub. Jian Chen's mood became even heavier from the various murmurings. His footsteps sped up slightly, while his face remained calm as ever without displaying any sense of being alarmed. If he was alarmed, people would know he carried a guilty conscience. People would definitely figure out that the white tiger was the winged tiger god. Jian Chen left the Union very quickly with Xiao Bai before disappearing into the crowds. He did not encounter any obstructions at all. Now that the white tiger's identity could no longer be kept as a secret, Jian Chen could not stay at the Radiant Saint Master Union headquarters any longer. He had already temporarily put the matter of reaching class 7 to one side. Although he was extremely unwilling, he needed to protect the white tiger. Jian Chen's parents undoubtedly held a very important status in his heart, but he also could not give up on the white tiger. Just as Jian Chen arrived on the main street, he frowned slightly. With a flash of cold light in his eyes, he immediately condensed a white cloud from Radiant Saint Force, riding away into the distance on it. When Jian Chen had traveled far away from the Union, the space around him suddenly froze. It trapped his body in the middle of the air, unable to move at all. Shortly afterwards, 5 figures shot over from below. They arrived before Jian Chen in the blink of an eye, and one of them extended his hands towards the white tiger as he sneered, "Jian Chen, even if you turned into a Radiant Saint Master, we're still able to find you. Let's see where you run this time." Roar! Before Jian Chen had even begun moving, the white tiger immediately gave out a roar. It was completely unaffected by the frozen space and shot out in a streak of white light. Its two sharp claws quickly scraped against the two hands, leaving behind two deep wounds. Worthy of being an ancient beast god. You sure are powerful, harming me despite only being class 6. Old Man Situ exclaimed in admiration. He then stared towards the other 4 people and bellowed, "Come, do it together. We'll take the winged tiger god and get out of here." Currently the news of searching for the winged tiger god had already spread through the entire continent, so Old Man Situ naturally knew about the white tiger's true identity. However, this did not affect his plan of taking the winged tiger god at all. To them, it didn't matter if it was a beast of antiquity or an ancient beast god. It was only important if it would allow them to reap great profits. Called out by his fighter name, Jian Chen jerked violently. He stared at the group of 5 with narrowed eyes while killing intent already covered his face. He bellowed, "How do you know my name?" Chapter 788, Battling the 8 Clans, 1, Ha 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 ha, of course we know your name. Jian Chen, be obedient and hand over the tiger. An old man sneered, already extending his hands towards the white tiger in Jian Chen's bosom. His hands were covered with an invisible layer of world force to prevent the white tiger from harming him. You're the people who work with the Gilligan clan, the murderers who killed my parents. Killing intent exploded in Jian Chen's eyes. He was no longer able to control himself against his parents' murderers. His chaotic Niden in his dantian spat out strands of chaotic force, filling up every corner of his body. His pushed his chaotic body to the utmost limit. Jian Chen's body shook and the frozen space in the surroundings immediately shattered. He threw a punch directly at the 2 hands approaching him from the old man. The fist concealed powerful chaotic force, the space in front of the fist was compressed by the vast energy as it flew out. Although the 5 old men had pursued Jian Chen for a very long time, they were unfamiliar with his strength. The old man was already a 5th heavenly layer saint ruler, but he had only casually applied world force to his hands without much effort in it to grab the winged tiger god. Crack! As Jian Chen's fist collided with the old man's hands, the thin layer of world force was dispersed by the punch and there was a clear crack of bones breaking shortly afterwards. The old man's hands were shattered by Jian Chen's punch and the old man could not help but grunt from the great pain. Jian Chen retreated with just a single strike and immediately opened up a distance of several hundred meters between them after a slight shake of his body. He was extremely mad, but he did not lose his rationality. He knew that he was unable to fend off the 5 old men all by himself as 2 of them were already 6th heavenly layer saint rulers. Be careful. This Jian Chen's not weak and we don't have much time left. Use all your strength to take the tiger and leave here immediately. Old Man Situ growled. He did not hold back, immediately attacking Jian Chen first. Following him, the 3 other people also stopped taking it lightly. They all rushed at Jian Chen. They had to take the winged tiger god as soon as possible. At this very moment, a gray-clothed, middle-aged man shot in front of Jian Chen like a lightning bolt and threw 4 palms towards them. 7th heavenly layer saint ruler. Old Man Situ and Matting cried out weirdly, and they immediately became stern. They condensed their saint weapons without any hesitation, and the weapons erupted with powerful energy ripples as they poured vast amounts of saint force into them. They swung their weapons. Wherever their saint weapons passed by, a black slit would form in the surrounding space. Old Man Situ and Matting were only 1 heavenly layer weaker than the grey-robed man, so under their full strength strikes the attack from the man was destroyed without any risk. The other 2 5th heavenly layer old men were not so fortunate. In the very moment their saint weapons collided with the man's attack, a powerful energy ripple erupted in mid-air that knocked the 2 of them backwards. They became rather pale in the face. The 4 protectors of the Bloodsword sect were currently walking 25 kilometers away from Jian Chen, and they suddenly paused together. They all looked at Jian Chen's direction. The energy ripples between the battle of the gray-clothed man and Old Man Situ's group had alerted them. It's them. We finally found them. A protector growled, before the four of them turned into streaks of red light shooting off into the distance. The four palms from the middle-aged man knocked Old Man Situ's group backwards. He glared at them and said with a heavy voice, "You outsiders have no right to act so brazenly in the city of God." The old men's expressions all darkened. They never thought that even after being so far from the Union they would still alert the experts of the Union, especially a seventh heavenly layer saint ruler. At the same time, powerful baleful force appeared in the distance. For streaks of blood-red light shot over like lightning bolts, arriving before Old Man Situ in a flash. They surrounded the old men. People of the Bloodsword sect. The gray-clothed man furrowed his eyebrows slightly. Even though the four protectors were weaker than him, he still looked at the four of them with a sliver of fearfulness. The arrival of the four protectors confirmed Jian Chen's thought that the 5 saint rulers that had come for the White Tiger were the murderers of his parents. It strengthened the killing intent in his heart. Shortly afterwards, he looked towards the gray-clothed man and then the four protectors. With a slight hesitation, he did not stay but instead immediately flew off into the distance. Although the murderers of his parents were right before him, it was not the time for revenge. He could not throw himself into danger from following his impulse. The most important matter right now was leaving the city of God, and then leaving the Holy Empire. Only like that would he become slightly safer. He was no longer considering just himself, but also for the safety of the White Tiger. Yang Yutian, leave behind that beast of antiquity on your shoulder. Otherwise, don't think that you'll be leaving this city. Suddenly, an old voice boomed in the sky. Around Jian Chen, over 10 ancestors of the 8 clans ran over. They were fused with space and traversed hundreds of meters with each step. They approached Jian Chen in just a few seconds, surrounding Jian Chen and trapping him inside. One of the ancestors eyed the gray-clothed man and clasped his hands. "Xiang Long, we 8 clans aren't trying to work against the Union. It's just that it's extremely possible that Yang Yutian's beast of antiquity is the winged tiger god that the protector clans are searching for. As a result, he needs to leave the beast behind." The gray-clothed person remained silent. The 8 clans had even mentioned the protector clans, so he was powerless. After all, he understood just how logical their words were because even he himself wondered if the beast on Jian Chen's shoulder was the winged tiger god the protector clans were looking for. Jian Chen eyed all the people coldly. He already understood that it would not be easy for him to leave here today. Even the Union that stood on his side could do nothing. This matter related to the winged tiger god, which could lead to even the 10 protector clans interfering. No organization dared to work against the protector clans. He only could rely on himself to leave this place. Jian Chen placed the white tiger behind his neck, where it clung on, and he drew the ruler armament dragon-slaying sword from his space ring. With the sword in hand, Jian Chen's entire presence underwent a complete change. Currently he was like a sharp sword drawn from a sheath, radiating with a sword chi that shot into the sky. He seemed like a completely different person from the graceful and scholarly radiant saint master he was before. The gray-clothed man stared at Jian Chen fixedly with bell-sized eyes. He was filled with disbelief, as if he had just seen a ghost. How is this possible? Yang Yutian, are you a fighter or a radiant saint master? The ancestors of the clans all sucked in a breath. In that very moment, their hearts which had remained calm for countless years began beating uncontrollably. All of them were overwhelmed by shock from what they saw, struggling to believe what they had seen. Yang Yutian, I never thought you'd be the ultimate prodigy in history, to be both a fighter and a radiant saint master. And you've already reached saint ruler as a fighter, a member of the 8 clans said in surprise. He eyed Jian Chen like he was looking at a monster. At that very moment, several streaks of white light flew over from the distance. The president, Grand Elder and several elders hurried over from the headquarters at the same time, before all stopping far away and gaping at Jian Chen in absolute shock. Only the Grand Elder seemed to remain rather calm and without much change, though his gaze towards Jian Chen was also filled with some complexity. Yang Yutian, never in the world did I think you're also a fighter. Is this real? A person that's both a fighter and a Radiant Saint Master, what does this mean? The president of the Radiant Saint Master Union remarked. His voice was filled with disbelief, it was like he had just seen a miracle. The Grand Elder paused for a while, before speaking out clearly, Yang Yutian, it doesn't matter if you're a fighter or a Radiant Saint Master. I only want to ask you one thing, have you ever regarded yourself as a member of the Union? Jian Chen looked towards the President and Grand Elder with a complicated gaze. With his hands clasped, he said, Mr. President, Grand Elder, I thank you for the care and concern in these days. Yang Yutian will never dare to forget your kindness. If there is a chance in the future, I will definitely return the favor. Master, don't believe his bullshit. This Yang Yutian wormed his way into our union with ill intentions. Don't fall for his tricks. Yun Tian flew over from the distance, looking at Jian Chen with a gaze of joy. He was overjoyed by Jian Chen's misfortunes. He had also learned about the winged tiger god. Originally, he had planned on returning to the Union headquarters to tell this to the president, but he never thought he would encounter such an incident along the way, as well as accidentally discover Jian Chen's fighter identity. Yang Yutian, now that you've offended the 10 protector clans, I want to see how you survive. This time, the Tsar family doesn't even need to do anything. You'll die under the hands of the protector clans, Yun Tian thought. He was extremely excited. He was already certain that Jian Chen would die, with no one able to help him. Jian Chen glanced over Yun Tian. His ice-cold glare, sharp like a sword, caused Yun Tian's heart to tremble violently. Unconsciously, he took several steps back. Just the gaze of Jian Chen caused Yun Tian to become nervous. However, Yun Tian recovered very quickly. As soon as he realized that he was scared into retreat by the glare of a dead man, his embarrassment immediately fueled his rage. He bellowed, Seniors, Yang Yutian took in the winged tiger god and even assisted its growth. He's already become a traitor of the continent. May the seniors execute Yang Yutian right here, right now, and do an extremely meritorious deed. Chapter 789, Battling the 8 Clans, 2, What Yun Tian said piqued the interests of the ancestors from the 8 clans. Whether Yang Yutian was a fighter or Radiant Saint Master, there was already enmity between them from when he killed the competitors from their 8 clans. Though Yang Yutian could no longer remain at the Union, their resolution to eliminate him did not weaken at all. This was because all the competitors who had died in the artifact space were important members of the 8 clans and possessed very special statuses. This loss was a huge blow to the 8 clans, one that they would struggle to accept. They still had not completely confirmed that the Class 6 beast of antiquity Jian Chen had was the winged tiger god that the protector clans were looking for. They only held a grudge against Yang Yutian, which was why they used it as an excuse to pressure Yang Yutian and take the beast of antiquity in a justifiable way. One person immediately called out from the group of ancestors, correct, the beast of antiquity of Yang Yutian's shoulder is the winged tiger god. He's protecting the god of the beast god continent and even helped it grow. It's already severely threatened the safety of our continent. This is a treasonous act. Everyone, execute the traitor. Let's all execute the traitor. The ancestors all called out together. With a blur, they arrived before Jian Chen and attacked him simultaneously. Their hands were immediately enveloped in layers of thick world force as they swung them towards Jian Chen. Jian Chen's gaze was icy cold. The chaotic force in his dantian surged like a storm into the dragon-slaying sword and the hazy light was immediately suppressed. It was soon replaced by a pretty, dark light that shot out from the sword and permeated the surroundings with a presence of destruction. The pupils of all the saint rulers present constricted. With a few flashes of light, the dragon-slaying sword was swung several times with lightning speed. The powerful sword chi collided with the world force-clad hands of the 8 clan saint rulers, directly nullifying their attacks. "Everyone be careful, Yang Yutian's not weak," a saint ruler attacking Jian Chen bellowed. Vast amounts of saint force violently surged from his body, condensing a huge, 3-meter-long sickle in his hand instantly. He had already produced his saint weapon. Shortly afterwards, the 4 other saint rulers that attacked Jian Chen stopped taking the situation lightly and also condensed their saint weapons. Invisible world force quickly condensed around the weapons before they were raised and swung at Jian Chen. Wherever the saint weapons passed by, the powerful energy ripples would cause space to distort, producing tiny cracks. Jian Chen remained expressionless. With an unbelievable speed he struck out 5 times with his ruler armament, colliding with the 5 saint weapons with extremely great power. Boom! 5 powerful booms rang out like one, exploding through the air like a strike of thunder. The violent energy wreaked havoc in the surroundings, tearing the space to pieces. The 5 saint rulers were knocked back by Jian Chen's strikes and flew backwards for a whole 3 kilometers before regaining stability. Afterwards, a sliver of shock flashed across their eyes. 5th Heavenly Layer Saint Ruler. An ancestor of the 8 clans bellowed, while his gaze towards Jian Chen was filled with disbelief. The president of the Radiant Saint Master Union, spectating from afar, also eyed Jian Chen in absolute surprise. He was extremely shocked from Yang Yutian's strength. 24, it must be him. I haven't seen him in so many years, but he's already grown to such a level. Inconceivable. The Grand Elder murmured beside the president. He was melancholic. How is Yang Yutian so powerful? Not only has he learned the 3 great radiant arts as a Class 6 Radiant Saint Master, he's also a very powerful fighter, a 5th Heavenly Layer Saint Ruler. Already hiding behind the president, Yun Tian became sheet white. He had actually had malice towards a 5th Heavenly Layer Saint Ruler. He only felt a wave of unsuppressible fear and great horror. He knew extremely well that experts like that could wipe him out like crushing an ant. But Yang Yutian has already offended the 8 clans and the Tsar family, and now he even carries a beast of antiquity that is suspected to be the winged tiger god. It's extremely possible that he'll attract the attention of the protector clans. So what if he's at the 5th Heavenly Layer? He's still doomed in the end. Arriving at this conclusion after some more thought, Yun Tian immediately relaxed slightly. Even Yun Tian himself could not confirm the white tiger's identity. However, with his envy and hatred for Jian Chen, he would still find ways to name it the winged tiger god, even if it was just a normal beast of antiquity, because then the 8 clans and the Tsar family would have the right to move against Jian Chen. Even the Radiant Saint Master Union would not be able to protect Jian Chen. This was because the winged tiger god was connected to matters that were just too important. Not far away, the 5 old men surrounded by the 4 protectors of the Bloodsword sect also gazed over. Their expressions was rather grim and, with a soft voice, one of them said, "I never thought that Jian Chen would be able to display the strength of a 5th Heavenly Layer Saint Ruler when he has a ruler armament." The 5 saint rulers that were knocked away by a single attack from Jian Chen all looked at each other sternly. They too had not thought that Yang Yutian would be so strong. The 5 of them were only in the 3rd and 4th Heavenly Layers and could not take on a 5th Heavenly Layer Saint Ruler. Jian Chen did not pursue the people of the 8 clans. He collected his sword and stood straight, glaring at the 5 old men who had suddenly appeared. Powerful killing intent radiated from him without any form of concealment, and he yelled out coldly, "I will deal with our enmity later. Please allow me to first kill the murderers of my parents." With that, Jian Chen used spatial force to fuse with the surrounding space. He shot towards the 5 old men with unbelievable speed in the form of a vague streak of light. A light flickered through the eyes of the ancestors, but they did not stop Jian Chen. They could borrow the 5 old men to first confirm Jian Chen's exact strength, as well as getting them to exhaust some of his strength to make it easier when they needed to deal with him. A 5th heavenly layer saint ruler was enough for the 8 clans to pay close attention to. This was because they did not know what powerful cards Jian Chen was holding back. The 5 old men became rather ugly. Right now, not only did they need to fend off the 4 protectors but they also had to deal with Jian Chen, who was similarly strong. Their situation was extremely bad. 8 clans, that cub on Jian Chen's shoulder is the winged tiger god that the protector clans are after. If you kill him and offer up the tiger to the protector clans, they definitely won't mistreat you. They'll definitely give you a saint tier battle skill as a reward, so why don't you hurry up and move? Do you want this deed to be accomplished by the Blood Sword sect instead? Old Man Matting had quick wits, attempting to urge the 8 clans into dealing with Jian Chen. They knew that if Jian Chen worked with the 4 protectors, the 5 of them would struggle to leave here today. A gleam of light immediately flashed across the dozen or so members of the 8 clans' eyes. What Old Man Matting had said clearly tempted them slightly, and hesitation appeared on their faces. Pay for my mother and father's lives. Jian Chen had already traversed several kilometers when he said that, quickly approaching the 5 old men. Clad in dense chaotic force, he thrust the dragon-slaying sword towards one of the people with lightning speed. The strike was ordinary. It did not contain any fancy technique, but it contained the powerful killing intent and flames of hatred Jian Chen had hid in his heart for a very long time. That strike contained all of Jian Chen's power. It was the strongest attack he could deal. As the sword cut through the air, the devastating chaotic force cut open the space, causing a black streak of light to appear in the space. The 5 old men looked at each other and nodded slightly. They then attacked Jian Chen at the same time, attempting to kill him off with a single blow. As soon as they began to move, the 4 protectors also reacted. 4 balls of red light disappeared with a flash and shot towards 4 of the people in the form of 4 long, blood-red awls. Among these 4 people targeted by the protectors' attacks included the 2 most powerful, Old Man Situ and Matting, who had already reached the 6th heavenly layer. With no other choice the 4 people could only give up on their attacks towards Jian Chen, using all their strength to block the 4 protectors. To them, while Jian Chen was very strong, also a 5th heavenly layer saint ruler, the threat of the 4 protectors was much greater than Jian Chen. Old Man Situ and Matting, as well as 2 other old men, were kept busy by the 4 protectors, leaving behind just a single person to block Jian Chen's attacks. The old man was not weak either, also being in the 5th heavenly layer. With a powerful roar, the giant sword in his 2 hands immediately began to shine with a dazzling light, and he swung it forwards with lightning speed, combining vast amounts of saint force and world force. Immediately, the space before him began to distort violently and opened up a pitch-black crack. When the dragon-slaying sword collided with the old man's saint weapon, it was akin to the collision of 2 great energies. With a large boom, vast amounts of energy ripples burst forth, destroying the surroundings and forming a violent storm that wreaked havoc in the sky. Both Jian Chen and the old man were knocked backwards from the collision and the violent energy ripples. A cold light flashed across Jian Chen's eyes and the chaotic force in his body immediately burst forth. It actually forcefully halted his retreating body before rushing at the old man again against the wind. The old man's expression changed slightly. Without the slightest hesitation, he lifted his saint weapon high up and swung it towards Jian Chen. Jian Chen had already arrived before the old man. He did not dodge the man's attack at all and directly thrust the dragon-slaying sword, still glowing with a dark light, towards the old man's chest with an aura of destruction. A life for a life. The old man's expression changed slightly and immediately recognized what Jian Chen was thinking. Soon afterwards a vicious light flashed across his eyes and he thought, Jian Chen, you madman, since you want to act madly I'll act madly with you. Let's see who laughs in the end. The old man's giant sword chopped towards Jian Chen's shoulder with a great might, while Jian Chen's dragon-slaying sword pierced the old man's chest. Chapter 790, Battling the Eight Clans. 3. The two of them had become completely wrapped up in taking each other's lives. It became extremely vicious, and they paid no attention to things that endangered their own lives. The old man's huge sword landed onto Jian Chen's shoulder. The powerful force directly turned Jian Chen's clothes to shreds, and even the fabric itself was annihilated. It revealed the golden silk mail made from the primordial god silk inside. In the end, the golden silk mail produced a vague golden light to block the blow. Jian Chen was completely unharmed. At the same time, the dragon-slaying sword in Jian Chen's hand pierced the old man's chest, reappearing on the other side. The destructive chaotic force burst forth from the dragon-slaying sword, rushing about like a dragon and wreaking havoc inside the old man. The old man's organs and bones were turned into smithereens wherever the chaotic force passed by. Spurt. The old man sprayed out a mouthful of blood and immediately paled. He glanced at Jian Chen in shock before immediately backpedaling without any hesitation. At the same time, he moved all the saint force in his body in an attempt to purge the chaotic force that was destroying everything. But how could chaotic force be eliminated so easily? Even though there was not much, the single strand of chaotic force was not something the weak saint force in his body could deal with. Even after expending all he had, the strand of chaotic force was only temporarily suppressed, unable to be eliminated in a short amount of time. This isn't saint force, nor is it world force. It's not any of the 6 elements either. What is this power? Why is it so powerful? The old man was overwhelmed by shock and revealed a great amount of fear in his eyes. He devoted almost all of his energy into suppressing the chaotic force, and as such his current capacity for battle was pitiful. Killing intent exploded in Jian Chen's eyes. With his parents' death flashing across his mind once again, the flames of pain and rage in his heart were converted to extremely dense killing intent. He stepped into the empty space, and immediately a ripple appeared. Afterwards, he disappeared before appearing before the old man once again. He thrust the dragon-slaying sword. The sword, combined with spatial force, was extremely fast. It arrived before the center of the old man's eyebrows instantly. The old man's pupils constricted abruptly. In the moment of life or death, he gave up suppressing the chaotic force in his body and used all of his energy to block Jian Chen's sword. Using all he had, he placed the giant sword in front of his body as fast as he could, using both his hands to support it to block his upper head. As the dragon-slaying sword collided with the wide sword face, the powerful force knocked the old man flying. Meanwhile, the strand of chaotic force in his body was freed from the suppression and moved about wildly. It wreaked havoc in his body, violently devastating all the energy in the old man's body. As the old man flew backwards, he constantly spat out blood and his face became even paler. He had succeeded in blocking the life-threatening attack, but his injuries worsened in exchange. Jian Chen remained expressionless. His eyes were cold while killing intent shot into the sky from him. With a step, he fused with the surrounding space, pursuing the old man once again with lightning speed. He thrust the sword once again in a simple fashion. It did not carry any special tricks, it was simply fast, accurate and vicious. This time, the old man no longer had any power to block the simple strike. In the end it entered the center of his eyebrows under his horrified gaze. The color in the old man's eyes quickly dissipated and became lifeless. At that very moment, a white ball of light flew out from his head, flying into the distance with lightning speed. It was the old man's origin soul. If the origin soul still remained, a saint ruler could not die. Jian Chen was prepared for this long ago. In the very moment the origin soul flew out, the surrounding space suddenly froze. It trapped the origin soul there, completely immobilizing it. Even though he was a fifth heavenly layer saint ruler, he was extremely weak in the form of an origin soul without a physical body. He did not even have the power to struggle in the frozen space. Swish! There was a sound of piercing air in the very moment the space froze. The dragon-slaying sword in Jian Chen's hand shot out abruptly and a sharp sword chi shot out from the very tip of the sword. It leapt across the space, striking the old man's origin soul. Bang! With a slight sound, the old man's origin soul was destroyed and vanished completely. He had been completely killed. This was how a powerful fifth heavenly layer saint ruler died. The ancestors who spectated the fight were all stunned. His strength truly made them rather fearful, to be able to kill a fifth heavenly layer saint ruler in such a short amount of time. However, they all knew very well that the reason why Jian Chen could do this was not just because he was strong, but because he had the additional ruler armament and the golden silk mail. Jian Chen would definitely not be able to display the strength of the fifth heavenly layer without the ruler armament, and if he didn't have the piece of mail that could block Saint Ruler attacks, he would not have been able to come out unscathed from the chop towards his shoulder. Even if his arm remained intact, he would be heavily injured. Why Yang Yutians actually killed a Saint Ruler? Witnessing this, Yun Tian, hiding behind the president, was absolutely terrified. His face was sheet white, without any trace of blood, while his whole body trembled gently. The president and the Grand Elder changed in complexion too as their gazes towards Jian Chen experienced a large change. The remaining four old men all had extremely darkened faces. They were entangled with the protectors and unable to reach out to help their companion. They could only watch on helplessly as he was slaughtered. After killing a person, Jian Chen's hatred did not decrease at all. With the dragon-slaying sword in his hand, he continued to the second fifth heavenly layer Saint King, working together with a protector of the Bloodsword sect to deal with him. It was impossible for the old man to do something like overcoming the strong as the weak. Becoming entangled with two opponents with similar strength, his pressure increased instantly while his attempts to fend them off became more and more difficult. He was steadily losing ground. Boom! With a powerful rumble, Jian Chen's three sword thrusts collided with the old man's ruler armament. The violent energy from the clashes sent the old man flying backwards. At this very moment, a red light flashed from behind him. It directly pierced through his chest, landing in the hands of the protector. It was a blood-red all. The old man groaned and spat out a mouthful of blood. He immediately began to pale while the flesh around where he was injured began to rot. Baleful force! The old man cried out. His expression was ugly. The baleful force of the Bloodsword sect was renowned throughout the continent. Not only could it erode the souls of people and kill without notice, it was extremely corrosive. If it was not immediately cleansed the moment it entered a wound, it would constantly eat away at the person's flesh. The old man had two opponents. Even when he gave it his all, he was in a disadvantageous position. There was no way he would have time to cleanse the baleful force. He had lost interest in battle with his wounds and did not plan on staying any longer. Turning away, he flew off into the distance, wanting to escape. You killed my parents. I will slaughter you all today in vengeance. Jian Chen suddenly appeared in front of the old man, blocking his way, and his sword was directly thrust towards the center of the old man's eyebrows. The old man was grim. He used the saint weapon in his hand to block the dragon-slaying sword before fleeing in a different direction, not getting carried away with the fight at all. Jian Chen's empty left hand suddenly formed a fist. The vast amounts of chaotic force in the fist began to condense before being swung out with lightning speed. The first combined Jian Chen's chaotic body with chaotic force. It was extremely powerful, such that the vicious strike shook up the space and caused the space ahead to become compressed. Bang! The fist landed heavily on the old man's waist and a crack followed. His bones around the waist were directly shattered by Jian Chen's punch, while the powerful force knocked the old man flying towards the direction of where the protector was. The protector remained expressionless. The long awl in his hand turned into a red ball of light, stabbing towards the back of the old man's head with lightning speed. Thump! The awl entered the back of the old man's head, piercing through his brain and appearing from between the eyebrows. The old man's origin soul flew out from the head and traveled into the distance in panic. However, it did not get very far before its surrounding space froze up. A sharp sword chi with destructive intent shot out, dispersing the origin soul. It killed off the old man completely. Another fifth heavenly layer saint ruler had died. The deaths of the two companions dealt an extremely heavy mental blow to the remaining three old men. They all became extremely ugly. Retreat! Old man Matting bellowed. They no longer cared about completing the Tiger King's mission, taking advantage of the moment to flee into the distance. The four protectors had no intentions of letting them go. They all turned into streaks of red light to pursue, blocking the three people once more. They all became embroiled in a great fight once again. Two of the protectors dealt with Old Man Situ and Matting, the two sixth heavenly layer saint rulers. As for the other two protectors, they worked with Jian Chen to slaughter the final fifth heavenly layer saint ruler together. Their battle was extremely intense, tens of thousand meters above the city of God. The two protectors and Jian Chen working together killed the old man very quickly. In the blink of an eye, only two people remained from the original group of five. Both Old Man Situ and Matting became extremely grim. With gritted teeth, Old Man Matting called out, "We can't do anything more. If we don't leave now, it'll be too late. Blood escape." Old Man Matting sprayed out a mouthful of essence blood that turned into a cloud of red mist, enveloping him. Afterwards, he shot off into the distance with an unbelievable speed, disappearing instantly. It was much faster than the spatial force saint rulers used. Old Man Situ did not hesitate either. He too cast the same secret technique, fleeing in a red streak of light. He disappeared in the blink of an eye. They've cast a secret technique that cannibalizes on their own strength. They can't last very long. Pursue. A protector said coldly before turning into a red light to chase in the direction the two old men fled off to. Afterwards, the three other protectors also ran off in that direction without any hesitation. Killing intent permeated Jian Chen's eyes. He fused with the surrounding space, using spatial force to travel. He too went off to pursue the two old men. At that very moment, three great sword flashes suddenly appeared in front of him, directly chopping down at Jian Chen. Jian Chen's complexion darkened and his ruler armament immediately jabbed out, destroying the three sword flashes. However, with that obstruction Jian Chen was forced to come to a stop. Three ancestors of the 8 clans floated right in front of him, blocking his path. "Yang Yutian, you should stay behind." An old voice spoke from behind. The dozen or so ancestors had gathered around him at the same time, trapping Jian Chen inside like an invisible net. Chapter 791, Battling the 8 Clans, 4. Jian Chen's glare slowly swept across the dozen or so ancestors from the 8 clans before looking in the direction that Old Man Situ and Matting had disappeared. His eyes were filled with unwillingness. Although he had already slaughtered 3 of his parents' murderers, the other 2 had escaped. If he did not massacre them all, Jian Chen could not recover from his hatred. 8 clans, Jian Chen murmured softly, his tone extremely cold. If the 8 clans did not obstruct him, how would Situ and Matting escape? He had already targeted all the hatred from being unable to avenge his parents towards the 8 clans. "Since you want me to stay behind, I'll stay behind and fight you all. I won't let you off easily, even if I die today," Jian Chen said gruffly while his presence roared into the sky. He was like a sword stabbed into the ground that separated the sky and earth. Not only did he feel absolutely no fear when facing up against a dozen or so saint rulers, he stood with a gushing aura, proud of his ability to battle. The people of the 8 clans all sneered to one after another. Although Jian Chen's strength in battle frightened them, they had over 10 people. They just did not believe Jian Chen was able to fend off a dozen or so saint rulers just by himself. This was because there was a few people who had exceeded the 5th heavenly layer among them. Jian Chen definitely would not be able to fight them. He also would not be able to flee, even with his protective treasure. Both the President and Grand Elder of the Radiant Saint Master Union produced a long sigh of helplessness. They really did not want to watch an unprecedented prodigy die just like that right in front of them, but it was involved with matters too important. Even if they wanted to help Jian Chen, they did not dare to. This was because if they interfered, the Radiant Saint Master Union might face obliteration. Although the Union was also a powerful force in the Holy Empire, they were nothing before the Protector clans. If the 10 clans wanted the Union to disappear from the continent, just casually sending a single clan was more than enough. Hiding behind the President, Yun Tian was absolutely frightened, but still secretly rejoiced. Jian Chen and the 8 clans of the City of God were like water and fire. He naturally loved seeing the two of them clash the most. If that happened, his future as the President of the Union would become unobstructed. 6 saint rulers moved against Jian Chen at the same time. As they had already personally witnessed Jian Chen's strength, they did not hold back at all and started off with their full strength. The saint weapons in their hands caused the space to tremble with terrifying ripples of energy as they all swung at Jian Chen from different directions. 6 saint weapons fell. They seemed to form something like a huge, invisible net surrounding Jian Chen that cut off all escape routes. Jian Chen gave out a long roar at the sky. He currently no longer bothered worrying about wasting chaotic force. The chaotic Niden in his dantian immediately began to vomit up large quantities of chaotic force. He then swung his ruler armament with all his strength at the 6 glowing sword shapes that fell at lightning speeds, blocking all 6 saint weapons. The 6 saint rulers were all 4th or 5th heavenly layer saint rulers. They were equally matched with Jian Chen in strength, so after the strike no one gained any advantage. At this very moment, another 3 saint rulers jumped into the mix with a blur. 2 of them swung their saint weapons as hard as they could at Jian Chen. Wherever the weapons passed by, the space would rip. The other person shot towards Jian Chen with a handful of world force before striking at him. Although he was not using a saint weapon, the palm strike's power was similarly huge and caused the surrounding space to distort as he passed by it. 6th heavenly layer. Jian Chen became extremely grim. In the moment the 3 of them struck out, he sensed that they were 6th heavenly layer saint rulers. Even with a ruler armament, he currently struggled to deal with people that strong. However, he did not become fearful at all. With a roar at the sky, the chaotic force inside his body violently surged into the dragon-slaying sword in his hands. The sword glowed with a dark light, turning into 3 masses of sword-shaped lights that shot towards the 3 people. The 2 saint weapons and the palm strike collided with Jian Chen's attack. A violent boom erupted. The saint weapons and the palm strike all paused slightly before continuing onwards, landing on Jian Chen's golden silk mail in the end. The silk mail immediately radiated with a dazzling golden light. It blocked the 3 6th heavenly layer saint rulers without Jian Chen being harmed at all. Seeing that, a sliver of surprise flashed across the 3 people's eyes. Their judgment of the golden silk mail's defense improved, but they did not hesitate at all. The 2 saint weapons were swung at Jian Chen once again while the hand grabbed the golden silk mail, attempting to remove it from him. "You want to take my things? Don't you dare." Killing intent exploded in Jian Chen's eyes. He did not pay any attention to the 2 saint weapons swinging towards him, immediately thrusting out the Dragon Slayer sword in attempt to end the saint ruler who attempted to take his piece of armor. The saint ruler was the ancestor of the Ho clan. Vast amounts of world force gathered before him. His hand on Jian Chen's armor disappeared as he directly pushed forwards with his left hand. The extremely compressed world force immediately shot towards Jian Chen in an attempt to block Jian Chen's ruler armament. Jian Chen's first 3 consecutive thrusts dispersed the world force rushing towards him, while the 4th strike directly shot towards the person's head. The ancestor tilted his head and just managed to dodge the attack. However, the dragon-slaying sword left behind a bloody mark on his head where a sliver of chaotic force was embedded. It immediately transformed into an unreined wild horse, surging into his head to begin wreaking havoc. Bang! Bang! At the same time, the 2 other saint weapons landed on Jian Chen's back. It was blocked by the silk mail, but the violent energy still knocked Jian Chen backwards. God damn it, what is this energy? With his face cut, the ancestor of the Hou clan immediately gave out a terrified cry. The sliver of chaotic force from the dragon-slaying sword had already wormed into his brain and was currently wreaking havoc to his nerves. It was not much, but it was extremely powerful and filled with the aura of destruction and just happened to be in the weakest part of the human body, the brain. It prevented the ancestor from controlling the saint force in his body to purge it. He could only watch on helplessly as that small sliver of chaotic force destroyed his brain. With the constant destruction of his nerves in his brain, a powerful pain followed. It caused the person's muscle to constantly twitch and jerk. Crap, the energy's coming for the origin soul. Suddenly, the Hou clan ancestor's expression changed significantly. After a slight hesitation, he clenched his teeth and his origin soul immediately broke out. He actually fled off after discarding his body. Seeing how the Hou clan ancestor had actually fled as an origin soul, the saint rulers who had yet to join in on the fight were immediately astounded. The other saint ruler from the Hou clan immediately appeared before the origin soul in a flash to protect it. Yang Yutian's defensive treasure is too powerful. We can't break through it at all. At that moment, the other 2 6th heavenly layer saint ruler called out. Let me deal with him. I want to see limit of his defensive treasure. Can it block a blow from an 8th heavenly layer saint ruler? An old man in flame-red robes replied and walked forwards. With a sway, he arrived before Jian Chen and opened his hands. A ball of blue flames immediately roared between his hands before being struck towards Jian Chen's chest with lightning speed. He sneered, Yang Yutian, remember my name. I am Eros of the Fire God clan. I will be taking the life of an unprecedented prodigy today. Jian Chen's silk mail gave off a dazzling glow, resisting against the scorching blue flames between the old man's hands. However, after less than a second the glow from the silk mail was suppressed, allowing Eros to land a firm strike on Jian Chen's body. With a muffled cough, Jian Chen's complexion immediately became rather pale. Eros' strength was already at the peak of the 8th heavenly layer, far beyond Jian Chen's strength. Not only did a single strike of his break through the golden silk mail's light barrier, it even injured Jian Chen's chaotic body. What a powerful body! A casual strike of mine can only slightly injure you. A sliver of marvel appeared in Eros' eyes. Soon afterwards, he abruptly clenched his hands and the space around Jian Chen instantly froze. Afterwards, with a pulling motion of his hands Jian Chen, who was originally knocked flying backwards, was pulled towards Eros at an extremely fast speed. The chaotic force in Jian Chen's body surged violently attempting to break free from the frozen space. However, due to the huge disparity between their strengths, Jian Chen could not escape despite having tried every inch of space around him. He could only watch helplessly as he quickly approached Eros. Yang Yutian, I want to see if you can survive a second strike from me. The old man sneered, and another ball of scorching flames appeared between his hands to once again be struck against Jian Chen's chest with lightning speed. Spurt! Jian Chen spat out a mouthful of blood as he was sent flying off into the distance like a cannonball. The power of the silk mail did not activate this time. Without its protection, he received the full brunt of the strike from an 8th heavenly layer Saint Ruler. He was heavily injured, and even his chaotic body was broken through. Jian Chen shot backwards for several kilometers before finally coming to a stop. He hung in the air pale-faced while his glare towards Eros was completely filled with killing intent. Inside his body, the severe wound from Eros was currently healing at an extremely fast rate. The difference in strength between the 8th heavenly layer and the 5th heavenly layer was just too vast. It could not even be described as a huge chasm. With the dragon-slaying sword, Jian Chen could battle 5th heavenly layer Saint Rulers, and even kill them, but currently against one that was at the 8th heavenly layer he did not even have the power to counterattack. Seeing how not only did Jian Chen took a strike with 90% of his power without dying, but he still possessed the power to remain in the air, Eros was no longer able to stay calm. He displayed disbelief as he cried out with a gruff voice, "What is this body? It's actually countless times more powerful than that of a beast of antiquity." Chapter 792, The Saint Artifact breaks free. With a trail of blood flowing from the corner of his lips, Jian Chen eyed the dozen or so Saint Rulers coldly. He had already switched to wielding the dragon-slaying blade with his 2 hands with chaotic force steadily pouring into the sword. He knew that it was going to be very difficult for him to flee today. He did not have the ability to escape from an 8th heavenly layer Saint Ruler. The only choice he had was a fight to the death. 8 clans, even if I die today, you won't be having it easy. Jian Chen's voice was extremely cold. The dragon-slaying sword was already radiating with extremely bright dark light, and the presence of destruction became more and more powerful. Forced into dire straits, Jian Chen no longer held back in consuming large amounts of chaotic force for his most powerful strike. As the chaotic force steadily streamed into the dragon-slaying sword from his dantian, his thumb-sized chaotic Niden also shrank at a visible rate. The chaotic Niden was the fountain of Jian Chen's power. If the Niden dispersed due to overuse of chaotic force, Jian Chen would lose the usage of chaotic force. Feeling the ever-increasing energy of destruction in the ruler armament, the ancestors of the 8 clans all became rather grim. Immediately, someone bellowed, "We can't let him continue like this. Senior Eros, it'd be best if you quickly finished Yang Yutian off completely before anything happens." Eros said indifferently, "No problem. Although Yang Yutian's power is weird, he's too weak. He can only display the strength of a 5th heavenly layer Saint Ruler even with a ruler ornament. He's not a threat to me. Just let me see what Yang Yutian's final card is and how powerful it is." Eros eyed Jian Chen as a sliver of vague disdain appeared. He said coldly, "Yang Yutian, I give you one chance to attack. After that, I will be taking your life." Jian Chen said nothing in reply. He controlled all the chaotic force in his dantian, pouring it into the sword. As the large quantities of chaotic force was consumed, the chaotic Niden in his dantian also quickly shrank, from being thumb-sized at the beginning to being the size of a soybean. The dragon-slaying sword in Jian Chen's 2 hands was already enveloped in a powerful layer of chaotic gas completely shrouding the sword. The extremely powerful energy ripples pressed against the space, causing it to distort as black cracks constantly appeared. Crack! Suddenly, there was a sudden rupturing sound. Jian Chen immediately narrowed his eyes. Although he was unable to see it, he could clearly feel that a tiny crack had formed on the sword. The amount of chaotic force gathered in the sword had already exceeded what the ruler armament could endure. A sliver of ruthlessness flashed across Jian Chen's eyes. He did not stop and instead forced the chaotic force to surge into the sword even more violently. The power of the sword increased even more. With constant cracking sounds, the cracks on the sword grew closer. Just as they covered a small portion of the sword, Jian Chen finally struck out with the attack he had charged up for a long time. He wielded the sword with 2 hands and raised it high up above his head, before slashing down with the power to split mountains. The sword ripped through space easily, annihilating the void. Before the slash, space was as weak as tofu, ripped to a point where it could not mend up easily. Shortly afterwards, a huge sword ray completely condensed from vast amounts of chaotic force broke free from the sword, shooting out as a terrifying sword chi. The slash was not just Jian Chen's strongest strike, but it also contained a large portion of the chaotic force in his body. The slash was so powerful that it completely exceeded the 9th heavenly layer in terms of strength, such that even the ruler armament was unable to endure it. The huge sword chi rushed forwards with the aura of destruction, enveloping all the saint rulers of the 8 clans. It overwhelmed them with shock. God damn it! Work together to block it. Eros cried out, calling all the saint rulers to work together in resisting it. Currently, they were all extremely ugly in the face. The power of Jian Chen's slash had completely exceeded their expectations. They could not understand how Jian Chen was able to produce such a powerful strike, no matter how they thought. Even they were unable to hit so hard. Over 10 people raised their hand to form a barrier. In the very moment the barrier was formed, the giant sword chi collided loudly with it. It began trembling violently before being shattered very quickly. Spurt. A mouthful of blood sprayed from the saint rulers' mouths. The power of the slash was formed from a large portion of Jian Chen's chaotic force, so its strength had reached a terrifying level. It had completely exceeded the 9th heavenly layer and was on par to a strike from a saint king. Eros was the most powerful among them, and the only person at his level. They were unable to block it even when they worked together. The great sword chi shattered the barrier like a hot knife through butter and shot towards the saint rulers. They were completely unable to dodge it. In that crucial moment, a giant palm suddenly appeared. Like a wall hanging in the sky, it stood before the saint rulers and protected them. Boom! The giant sword chi condensed from chaotic force collided with the palm and caused a great rumble. The great ripples of energy wreaked havoc in the region, destroying the space and sucking everything into a pitch-black void. The palm was like an impenetrable shield. It completely blocked the sword chi attack, saving all the saint rulers of the 8 clans. In the end, the sword chi's energy was all consumed and it disappeared in mid-air. Afterwards, the giant palm also slowly faded away before fully dissipating. It revealed a blue-robed old man and a purple-robed, middle-aged woman in a posture with her hand extended. We greet the 2 seniors. As soon as they say the 2 people appear, the saint rulers all knelt down in the sky. Their faces were filled with respect. The woman slowly pulled back her slender hand and looked around uncaringly. She said with a cold voice, "I never thought that during a visit to the protector clans the city would turn into such a mess. If I didn't get back in time, perhaps you would all have been doomed." It's exactly as the Wei Senior has put it. We thank the senior for saving us, the ancestors all said. A sliver of paleness appeared on their faces. The strike from before had frightened them all, causing them to experience a moment of life or death that had not happened to them for many years already. The woman eyed Jian Chen before seeing the white tiger on Jian Chen's neck. Her interest was piqued, and she said indifferently, "You must be Yang Yutian?" Jian Chen said nothing. He felt extremely grim. The woman had easily blocked the attack that had consumed most of his chaotic force, so without a doubt she was a saint king, and one of the strongest saint kings there was at that. "Senior, he is Yang Yutian," a saint ruler said with a gentle voice from behind her. "I didn't think you'd actually be a fighter as well. But no matter what you are, you need to leave behind the beast of antiquity that might be the winged tiger god." As soon as the woman finished speaking, the space around Jian Chen immediately froze. The frozen space was much tougher than any other ones he had encountered in the past. It seemed to have become a block of extremely tough essence iron, tightly trapping him inside. He could not even move a finger. The woman appeared before Jian Chen without a sound and extended her white, slender hand towards the white tiger. Boom! At this very moment, a violent rumble suddenly resounded in the distance. The sound was thunderous and earth-shaking, causing the entire city to tremble violently. The woman's hand reaching towards the white tiger was forcefully stopped mid-air. She turned her head abruptly towards the Union headquarters, while her indifferent eyes narrowed. The sudden sound had attracted everyone's attention. The President and Grand Elder also turned their heads towards the origins of the sound, and, to no surprise, towards where the Union headquarters was. Suddenly, the President's expression changed greatly. He cried out, "It's the Saint Artifact! Crap, the Saint Artifact's come out!" With that, a golden streak of light shot over from the distance. It directly landed into Jian Chen's hand. It was a golden tower, only 3 inches in height. "It's the Saint Artifact! It's the Saint Artifact of our Union! Why has the Saint Artifact come out?" The President's expression changed greatly and stared at it in disbelief. The woman was also stunned by the sudden change to the situation. However, she returned to her senses soon after and stared at the palm-sized golden tower that had flown by itself into Jian Chen's hand. A weird light flashed across her eyes, and she immediately extended her right hand towards it. As soon as her hand approached it, a rather large fist suddenly appeared out of nowhere and directly flew towards the woman. Her expression changed greatly and her hand reaching towards the tower halted. It accepted the punch with a thick layer of world force. Bang! With a sudden thunder-like sound, the fist collided with the woman's hand, causing the surrounding space to shake violently. After the strike, the woman's face changed abruptly. She immediately shot backwards and stared at the fist in shock. She cried out, "Ninth heavenly layer Saint King!" A bare-chested, middle-aged man slowly appeared. He was burly, wide and thick, and his body radiated with a certain aura of toughness. He glanced at the woman indifferently before losing interest. Raising his head at the sky before quickly lowering it to look at the ground, he became more and more excited. He trembled gently and said with a shaking voice, I'm out, I'm finally out. I've finally returned to my ancestors' world." The middle-aged man was the strongest magical beast within the artifact, the 300-meter-long golden divine dragon. After the man, another dozen or so figures slowly emerged into the sky. They all radiated with a bold aura, pressuring the saint rulers present to the point where they struggled to breathe. "Finally out, we're finally out. From now onwards, we're free. We don't need to be trapped in that bloody space any longer. I've finally come out. I'm free, I've finally returned to the world where my ancestors came from." The Class 8 magical beasts that were just liberated from the artifact space produced earth-shaking roars at the sky. Their voices were filled with emotion, and a few people had even began crying. Those were the tears of joy. The woman's face became extremely ugly and she cried out softly, "Why have over 10 Saint Kings appeared here? One of them is even in the 9th heavenly layer. No, that's not right, this isn't the presence of humans. They're actually all high-class magical beasts." The woman immediately became rather pale. At the same time the Tiger King, who was currently resting on a small island in the Northern Ocean, stood up abruptly. He stared in the direction of the Tianyuan continent with glowing eyes and said, "Why have the presence of a dozen or so Class 8 magical beasts appeared suddenly? Who are they?" Chapter 793, Escaping from the City of God. In the City of God, the ancestors of the 8 clans and the middle-aged woman from the Tsar family floated in mid-air, stunned. The sudden appearance of the presence of over 10 Class 8 magical beasts dealt a very powerful psychological blow to them. A Class 8 magical beast was equivalent to a human Saint King. In addition, due to their innate abilities, these magical beasts would be extremely tough in battle with very few humans at a similar level that could be their opponents. The sudden appearance of a dozen or so Class 8 magical beasts was equal to a dozen or so Saint Kings, and one of them had even reached the very peak of Class 8. A group like this was capable of making even the Protector clans feel frightened. Together they were more powerful than any single Protector clan, so if the clans wanted to deal with them they would have to work together. Are you from the Beast God continent? Haven't the 10 Protector clans come to an agreement with your Tiger Emperor where you can't enter the continent for the next 3 months? Why would you break the agreement so soon? The woman from the Tsar family growled. Even she felt fear before so many Class 8 magical beasts. The liberated magical beasts all roared at the sky carefreely. Their voices were filled with joy, as if they were venting all the grievances of thousands of years. Their ancestors were all sucked into the Saint artifact in the ancient times. After countless years their ancestors had reproduced and given birth to generations and generations, all of whom lived in the artifact space. They matured and became powerful before finally dying in there. All their ancestors knew that the sky outside was vaster, but they could do nothing as they were unable to break free from the bindings of the artifact and escape. As a result, escaping to the outside world was basically the lifelong dream of every high-class magical beast inside. And finally, this dream which they had carried for so long came true. It filled all of them with unconcealable joy, to the point that they all could not help but tear up. Not only was this day a day they had anticipated for a very long time, it was the greatest wish of their ancestors. They had yearned for this day for far too long. A long while later, the magical beasts finally calmed down and looked around curiously to explore this world. The golden divine dragon in human form looked at the woman and could not help but remember what the woman had said. He asked, "What did you say? What beast god continent? You're not magical beasts from the beast god continent?" The woman displayed a weird light before glancing at the saint artifact in Jian Chen's hand. The beast god continent. The dragon murmured to himself, but there was a sliver of confusion in his eyes. This was because there was nothing about a beast god continent in his inherited memories. When his ancestor was first sucked into the artifact space, the winged tiger god had yet to attack the 100 races with all the magical beasts under his command. At that time, the beast god continent was still the 100 races territory. The golden dragon glanced at the two people behind him and sighed emotionally. With so many years, it looks like the world's changed greatly. It's no longer the world remembered by our ancestors. The two people behind him were the mutated divine alligator and scorching divine phoenix in human forms. They took the appearances of a black-robed old man and a red-clothed young woman. The alligator and phoenix's gazes became rather complicated. They were very excited with their return to their home world, but after calming down they instead felt like they had come to an extremely unfamiliar world. A lonesome and depressed light also flashed across the phoenix's eyes. However, she hid it very quickly and said, "The energy of the world here is much richer than inside the artifact. I reached the peak of the 8th heavenly layer 300 years ago, so I'm just a step away from the 9th. I need to find a place to go into seclusion immediately." Shortly afterwards, the phoenix glanced at the white tiger on Jian Chen's shoulder and a sliver of surprise flashed across her eyes. Afterwards, she eyed the golden tower in Jian Chen's hands and said, "Artifact spirit, I've already helped you break the ancient vow. According to our agreement, you will no longer restrict us of our freedom. Hong Lian will be bidding farewell first." With that, the phoenix glanced at the white tiger one last time before disappearing as a red streak of light. The dragon looked towards the winged tiger god on Jian Chen's shoulder, his expression filled with complexity. He said, "I never thought I'd meet a winged tiger god the moment I came out. It's a pity it's too weak." The dragon sighed and murmured, "After so many years, I wonder if my clansmen are still around. I need to go to the dragon clan." According to my inherited memories, the dragon clan's positioned on an island in the ocean. The dragon clan? Are you talking about the dragon clan of the 4 ancient great magical beast clans? the woman asked in surprise. The dragon's interest was piqued. He looked at the woman with glowing eyes and asked, "You actually know about my dragon clan? How is the dragon clan right now?" The woman immediately gasped upon gaining confirmation. Her gaze towards the dragon experienced an extremely great change and she said, "The dragon clans ceased existing very, very long ago. They've vanished. Including the ancient divine Phoenix clan, they've all vanished. The beast god continent not had a dragon or divine Phoenix clan for a long time." What? Vanished? How is that possible? The dragon stared blankly while a sliver of disbelief appeared in his eyes. According to his inherited memories, his dragon clan was an extremely powerful clan, the emperors of the magical beasts. The woman was now completely certain of the Class 8 magical beasts' identities. She said, "I do know a little about the matters of the ancient times. Apparently, the Dragon Clan and the Divine Phoenix Clan disappeared at the same time, as well as the ancient winged tiger god. Vanished, vanished. My Dragon Clan's already vanished." The dragon displayed indescribable pain and loneliness. When he heard what the woman had said, he reacted like he had just lost all of his relatives. "I want to go back to Dragon Island to have a look." The dragon murmured gently. "Rui Jin, I'll go with you," the black-clothed old man said beside the dragon. The dragon nodded slightly. He was not familiar with a lot of people from the artifact space, only two. They were the scorching divine phoenix who had just departed and the mutated divine alligator beside him. Suddenly, the dragon's expression changed slightly. Two rays of light immediately shot out from his eyes, piercing the fabric of space, and he growled, "Crap, there's quite a few experts currently tearing open the space. They seem to be from the 10 protector clans of the Tian Yuan continent. According to my memories, the ancient magical beasts were oil and water with the humans. We hated each other, so we definitely can't let them come. With my race's abilities, I can seal up the space within a radius of 10 million kilometers so that they can't tear through it." Everyone quickly dispersed during this time. The dragon suddenly began to glow with an extremely powerful light. It illuminated the entire space, dyeing the world golden. It formed a miraculous scene rarely seen, even in several millennia, above the city of God, stunning countless people below. The golden light that illuminated the surroundings all gathered into his two hands, and they quickly changed into different seals with the light. As the hands moved, the surrounding space seemed to become something like a heart, beating with a rhythm. Dragon Clan's secret technique, World Lock. The golden dragon cried out and produced a seal from his hands, shoving it at the empty void. Immediately a few slight, wondrous changes occurred to the space in a radius of 10 million kilometers, as if it had turned into a separate domain with different laws of the world in that very moment. The woman and the saint rulers all reacted greatly. They felt like they could no longer control spatial force, not even to simply move it. At that moment it seemed like they were forcefully ripped away from the laws of the world and no longer in the world they were in before. What is this ability? Why is it so terrifying? They were all overwhelmed by shock. They had never even heard of an ability that could influence the laws of the world, much less witness it themselves. Even saint emperors were probably not capable of this. With my secret technique, I've sealed the space within a radius of 10 million kilometers. It can only last for 10 seconds. Everyone, leave quickly. The dragon said to his companions behind him. The Class 8 magical beasts did not hesitate at all. They all ripped open the space to create space gates, traversing an extremely great distance with a single step. They departed from the city of God. Farewell, artifact spirit. I hope we never meet again in the future. The dragon spoke towards the saint artifact with gritted teeth, with a voice that still carried some anger. It was impossible to not have any hatred towards the artifact spirit after being trapped for thousands of years. However, he understood that the artifact spirit too was bounded by the ancient vow, and that he had his own miseries. Rui Jin, the overlord's currently in great danger. You might as well take him along with you when you leave. The artifact spirit's voice appeared in the dragon's head. All right, I'll help you this time. The dragon gnashed his teeth. Afterwards, with a swing of his hand, space was ripped open to form a space gate. As soon as the space gate formed, Jian Chen experienced an powerful, irresistible force wrap around him that sent him into the space gate. Seeing Jian Chen flee, the woman immediately became anxious. Just when she wanted to chase after him, she saw the dragon in the corner of her eyes and immediately suppressed the impulse in her heart. The Saint Artifact. Yang Yutian, return the Saint Artifact to us. The president of the Radiant Saint Master Union became unsettled as he watched Jian Chen disappear into the space gate. The Saint Artifact was the treasure of the Union. It was extremely important, and if he lost the artifact the Union would no longer have any meaning for its existence. The reason why they were able to gather almost all the high-class Radiant Saint Masters of the continent was because the Union possessed the Saint Artifact, possessing the secret to reaching Class 7 at the same time. This was why they had their current status. Hey you, we should also go. After sending Jian Chen off, the dragon ripped open the space again to create a space gate before departing with the mutated divine alligator. In the blink of an eye, the dozen or so Class 8 magical beasts that had come out of the artifact all departed. No one knew where they went, and even Jian Chen, amidst a disaster, escaped under the help of the dragon, taking away the Saint Artifact of the Union with him. With the artifact taken away, all the people from the Union darkened in complexion. Even the Grand Elder, who originally viewed Jian Chen extremely importantly, became ugly, as the artifact was just too important to the Union. They definitely could not afford losing it. Chapter 794. The artifact takes a master. After a few seconds, the surrounding space began to ripple violently like the ripples of a lake. Soon afterwards, 11 spatial cracks suddenly opened up, quickly forming space gates. Immediately, many people stepped out, all from the 10 protector clans and mercenary city. To no surprise, the person leading the mercenary city group was Tian Jian, the Grand Elder of the city. Suddenly, another crack opened up. An old man in simple clothes walked out. He was by himself, but despite his appearance no one present dared to belittle him. Even the strongest people from the 10 protector clans looked at the old man seriously. Blood Sword Sect Master, Xiaofan. I never thought you'd come too. Tian Jian smiled at the old man. The presences of over 10 Class 8 magical beasts suddenly appeared. As a human, is there a principle where I don't come for something so important? Houston said expressionlessly, his voice was very calm. However, he was far from the calmness he displayed inside. What's happened here? Why did the presences of over 10 Class 8 magical beasts suddenly appear here? An ordinary-looking middle-aged woman asked. She was the pavilion master of the Pure Heart Pavilion. And this region of space seemed to be sealed by a mysterious power just then. My space gate was unable to connect here, which delayed me very much. Otherwise, those magical beasts would definitely not have been able to flee so quickly, said a middle-aged man. He too was an expert from the 10 protector clans. The middle-aged woman from the Tsar family did not hide anything at all. She narrated everything that had happened before in detail, and did not even hide the news about the winged tiger god. What? The winged tiger god is with a junior who's both a fighter and a Radiant Saint Master. How can people be Radiant Saint Masters and fighters at the same time? Hearing that, the 10 protector clans all questioned it immediately. This was because on the Tian Yuan continent, a fighter could not be a Radiant Saint Master and a Radiant Saint Master could not be a fighter at the same time. This was an almost undebatable fact as no one had ever appeared as both of them, not even during the ancient times. I'd never think that all the Class 8 magical beasts trapped in the Radiant Saint Master Union's artifact would all come out at once. This is something extremely bad for our continent. If they work together with the experts of the Beast God continent, then the Beast God continent will power up significantly. The speaker was an ancestor of the Changyang clan, Changyang Qingyun. Let's not talk about these matters first. Finding the winged tiger god is the priority. We can't let the experts of the Beast God continent obtain it before us, or after it reaches its peak it'll be the end of our Tian Yuan continent, another person said. Why don't we work together and search the entire continent with a secret technique? We'll find his whereabouts. Another suggested. Afterwards, a Saint King stood out from each of the protector clans. Pooling their strength together, they cast a secret technique to search the entire continent. The mercenary city group did not participate in it. The Grand Elder, Tian Jian, floated in the space as he watched the people cast the technique, and he was rather anxious inside, scared of them finding where Jian Chen was. Houston also worried. He treated Jian Chen as his successor, and even watched on personally as Jian Chen matured to such a level from an Earth Saint Master with a broken Saint weapon. He naturally did not wish for Jian Chen to die young as an unprecedented prodigy. This was because he knew very well that if Jian Chen successfully made it all the way, his achievements would definitely not be any lower than his own. Jian Chen could even exceed him, becoming a second Saint Emperor on the continent. The search went on for roughly half an hour before finally ending. However, the people who did the searching all displayed rather ugly expressions. One of them said, "We've already searched the entire continent, but we can't find the presence of the winged tiger god. However, we found some Class 8 magical beasts from the artifact space." Hearing that, all the people of the 10 protector clans darkened in complexion, while both Tian Jian and Houston relaxed slightly. Since we can't find the winged tiger god, why don't we slaughter all those Class 8 magical beasts who escaped from the artifact? It'll weaken the Beast God continent's force. An old woman suggested with a hoarse voice. We mustn't. If we kill those magical beasts, it might weaken the Beast God continent slightly, but it'll just fan the Beast God continent's flames of rage. It'll just speed up the war between the two continents. This would be extremely bad for us. Objections appeared as soon as the old woman put forward her suggestion. Correct. We, the Tian Yuan continent, are weaker than the Beast God continent. It's disadvantageous to go to war against them early. We still need some buffering time. We can only fight them after we've condensed all the power we have. The priority is still finding the winged tiger god. Several millions of kilometers away from the Holy Empire, Jian Chen currently sat on the ground in some grassy plains, moving about to look at the palm-sized, golden tower. The craftsmanship of the tiny tower was extremely exquisite. There were a total of 9 floors and was very pretty, glittering with golden light before him. So the artifact of the Union is like this. Though, artifact spirit, why did you want to leave the Union? Jian Chen moved the golden tower around as he looked at it and spoke as if he was talking to himself. His injuries from the Saint Ruler of the 8 clans had already completely healed from the insane recovery rate of the chaotic body. Overlord, this one has already stayed in the Union for hundreds of thousands of years. I don't want to always remain in this world. This one is willing to follow the Overlord. I only wish to see vaster worlds. The artifact spirit's voice appeared in Jian Chen's head, his tone was extremely sincere. Artifact spirit, you're smart for knowing to follow Master. Don't worry, Master's future accomplishments is immeasurable. Once Master becomes powerful, you'll be swimming in benefits. He'll only need to collect some materials to upgrade your artifact and your strength will increase by 100-fold. Zi Ying's voice suddenly appeared. Jian Chen could clearly feel the golden tower in his hand tremble extremely slightly, as if what Zi Ying had said caused the artifact spirit to become extremely excited. Artifact spirit, just how powerful are you right now? Can you assist me in fending off the experts of the 10 protector clans? Master, don't count on the spirit of this artifact. This artifact is not an offensive artifact, but rather a support one. Though it can be used to store some stuff, its ability to battle is pitiful. If you want it to fight enemies, it might not even be able to harm Master. Ziying's voice resounded in Jian Chen's head. Hearing that, Jian Chen immediately became slightly surprised. He did not believe it. How is this possible? Didn't the artifact spirit seal those Class 8 magical beasts? Why is it so weak? Overlord, you may not know, but this one is indeed a supportive artifact. My purpose is to convert the radiant saint force in the surroundings into origin energy. This one can display the strength of a saint emperor within the artifact space, but outside this one's strength is greatly reduced. It will be difficult for this one to fight a saint ruler, the artifact spirit said bitterly. Jian Chen secretly sighed. Originally he planned on just using the artifact spirit to fend off the 10 protector clans, but now it seemed to all be imagination. Artifact spirit, why don't you hurry up and accept him as your master? Ziying's dignified voice resounded in the artifact spirit's head. Hearing that, the artifact spirit immediately jerked. After a slight hesitation, he took Jian Chen as his master all by his own accord before disappearing into the center of Jian Chen's eyebrows as a streak of golden light. It had already arrived in Jian Chen's sea of consciousness, floating obediently between the sword spirits that were currently absorbing the multicolored stone. Master, now that this one has accepted you as my master, Master can place the winged tiger god into the saint artifact. The artifact spirit's voice appeared in Jian Chen's head. With that, Jian Chen hesitated slightly before finally placing the white tiger into the space after seeing that the white tiger agreed. It was easier to conceal his identity this and could help avoid quite a lot of trouble. With the artifact spirit submitting himself, Jian Chen also finally relaxed slightly. Now that the artifact followed him at all times, no matter where he went, reaching Class 7 was no longer a problem. He only needed to wait a year before the seal on the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force was released, allowing him to reach Class 7. Then he would possess the ability to revive the dead. Standing up, Jian Chen fished out a set of tight blue robes and wore them. He then left after fitting himself like a fighter. 2 hours later, Jian Chen had already traversed thousands of kilometers. He then entered a first-class city to buy a map, to find his way back home. As soon as he entered the city, Jian Chen heard about the news of the search for the winged tiger god everywhere. Even ordinary people knew about the winged tiger god. Jian Chen listened to the people's discussions about the tiger as he walked towards the largest general store in the city. He bought the largest map available. I never thought I'd have come here. Jian Chen immediately smiled bitterly after seeing the markings on the map. This was because he was currently in the Felicity Empire of the 3 great empires, already millions of kilometers away from the Holy Empire. Why have I come to somewhere so far away? It's terrible. Without a space gate, I have no idea how much time I'd need to spend on the road before I get back to the Jessen Kingdom. Jian Chen smiled bitterly, immediately pained by the thought. Whatever, let's see if I can find a space gate first or not. Jian Chen put the map away and left the city to see if he could find a space gate and leave the empire with it. It would save a lot of traveling time. 3 days later, Jian Chen flew in the sky towards a rather powerful sect that he had learned of. He wanted to see if there was a public space gate anywhere nearby. At that very moment, the space in front of him cracked open and a space gate quickly formed. A white-robed, middle-aged man stepped out. Senior. Seeing the man, Jian Chen immediately rejoiced. It was Tian Jian, the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. Chapter 795, Eve of Departure. Tian Jian had come all by himself. He seemed like an ordinary person, but his white clothes seemed to give off a celestial aura. The wind was violent high up in the sky, causing his robes to be buffeted about wildly and his long, black hair to float in the air. Tianjian looked at Jian Chen with a complicated look. I never thought you'd actually come to somewhere so far away. Jian Chen, it's fortunate that I still left that mark on you, or finding you really wouldn't have been easy. Jian Chen, now that the 10 protector clans are searching the entire continent to find you, it's no longer suitable for you to stay on the Tianyuan continent. You should quickly leave. Hearing that, Jian Chen's expression changed slightly. He said hurriedly, Senior, the white tiger now has somewhere to hide. There's no worry for it being found anymore. Also, the Tianyuan continent is huge. If I hide well, it'll be very difficult for them to find me. The place of hiding you mentioned must be the Saint artifact of the Radiant Saint Master Union. Tianjian stared deeply at Jian Chen. Currently, the shock in his heart brought on by Jian Chen was only increasing. Not only did he earn the companionship of the winged tiger god, forming an extremely deep bond with the tiger since it was young, even the barrier spirit of Mercenary City that rarely appeared seemed to have a mysterious, unknown bond with him. And now, even the Saint artifact that had existed for countless years in the Union followed Jian Chen on its own accord. This type of behavior seemed to tell Tianjian that the young man in front of him could not be compared to other, ordinary prodigies. Jian Chen nodded, Senior's correct. It's indeed the artifact space. The protector clans shouldn't be able to find him if the tiger stays in there. No, it's not as simple as you think. Tianjian gently shook his head. Jian Chen, you once stayed at the Union, so you should understand what the Saint artifact means to them. Now that you've taken away the Saint artifact, you've basically stolen the lifeblood of the Union. In the future, those searching for you probably won't just be the protector clans. The Union won't let you go either, because the artifact's just too important to them. Jian Chen said nothing. How could he not understand what Tianjian was saying? It was just that the Saint artifact's help was currently too valuable to him. Not only was it his only hope to reach Class 7, it was where the white tiger hid. It was indeed extremely difficult for Jian Chen to now return the artifact. Also, the artifact now had a consciousness. It had its own thoughts, and it was the artifact itself that wanted to follow him. It had even taken him on as a master. Jian Chen would struggle to do it even if he wanted to return it. The figures of the President and Grand Elder flashed across Jian Chen's eyes. He could not help but feel rather ashamed and uneasy. Not only did he fail their expectations, he even created an extremely big problem for the Union. President, Grand Elder, in the future Jian Chen will definitely make a compensation of several-fold for your losses, Jian Chen thought. Jian Chen, the Saint artifacts already existed with the Union for countless years. Even I have no idea if the Union has any way to search for the artifact, and the protector clans are already using the entire continent's power to search for you. They've also already collected drawings of you, so perhaps in the not-so-distant future those images will spread throughout the continent. When that time comes, the Tianyuan continent is no longer somewhere you can stay. Senior, what should I do? Do I really have to leave the continent? Even if I leave, the experts of the Beast God continent will come searching for me as well. Jian Chen's heart was extremely heavy. After some thought, Tianjian mumbled, perhaps there's only one more place you can go now. Only that place can protect you from both the protector clans and the Beast God continent. Where's that? Jian Chen asked curiously. To the sea race. Tianjian said slowly. The sea race of the 4 ancient races? Jian Chen asked in astonishment. Tianjian nodded and confirmed, correct, the sea race of the 4 ancient races. Today, only the sea race possesses the power that can cause both the protector clans and the Beast God continent to become fearful. This is because the sea god of the ancient times is still not dead. 1,000 years ago, I sensed the presence of the sea god. He's still alive. Hearing that, Jian Chen jerked violently. He was greatly shocked and unsettled. The 4 champions of the ancient times were the strongest human, Mo Tianyun, the ancient winged tiger god, the war god of the ancient 100 races, Ergens, and the sea god of the sea abyss. The 4 of them were all at a level where all forms of life could look up to, existences that had surpassed Saint Emperor. Jian Chen, I'll take you back. You can't stay any longer on the Tian Yuan continent. I'll send you off after you handle the miscellaneous matters you need to deal with. Tian Jian sighed gently. This was the only way to protect Jian Chen. Soon afterwards, he gently waved his hand and an invisible force wrapped around Jian Chen, sucking him into the space gate. When Jian Chen reappeared, he was already outside Lore City in the Jessen Kingdom. Tian Jian also followed along with him. Jian Chen, go deal with what you need to at home. I'll wait for you here, Tian Jian said indifferently. Jian Chen said nothing in reply. He was about to leave the Tian Yuan continent, and he became unhappy as a result because he knew he would have to leave behind all his friends and family. Once he left, he had no idea when he could return again. Perhaps he would only return after he possessed the strength to fend off both the Protector clans and the Beast God continent. However, he had no idea how far away that day was. Perhaps he would need thousands of years before he could return. By then, all the people would have changed. Jian Chen carried an indescribable loneliness, flying towards the Changyang Manor of Lore City with a heavy heart. Currently in Lore City, the matter about finding the winged tiger god had already spread from mouth to mouth. Currently it had reached a level where almost all the people on the Tian Yuan continent knew about the winged tiger god. Jian Chen returned to the manor. His arrival immediately caused the place to become lively as many elders all rushed out and surrounded him like the stars around a moon, asking about how he was. Their expression were both courteous and filled with concern, with some pride sandwiched in between. After some small conversation with all the old people of the manor, he called Uncle Chang to his room. He set up a transparent barrier around the room with a wave of his hand. Looking at Jian Chen's behavior, Uncle Chang knew that Jian Chen was in a bad mood. Perhaps something bad had happened? Compounded by how careful Jian Chen was, Uncle Chang immediately became rather stern and asked, "Fourth young master, why are you being so cautious? Has something happened?" Jian Chen turned around to look at his room. He could not help but have images of the past flash across his eyes and, with a soft sigh, he said, "Uncle Chang, I need to leave here for some time, and that time may be very long." "Young master, has something big happened?" Uncle Chang's face was filled with worry. Jian Chen nodded slightly. "A few things have occurred. Uncle Chang, after I leave the clan will be in your care." "Young master, you don't need to worry about the clan. Just be extra careful." Uncle Chang's voice was filled with concern. He could already guess that Jian Chen had probably once more provoked powerful opponents outside. Jian Chen produced a dozen or so Class 6 monster cores from his space ring and placed the handful on the table. He said, "Uncle Chang, these Class 6 monster cores will assist your cultivation greatly. I don't need them anymore, so you should take them. I hope the next time we meet, Uncle Chang will have already reached Saint Ruler." Jian Chen told Uncle Chang a few more things before leaving the room. He then proceeded to the manor's back courtyard, the small quiet building where his eldest brother, Changyang Hu, stayed. Uncle Chang eyed the monster cores left behind by Jian Chen with a complicated gaze before slowly putting them away, one by one, into his space ring. Afterwards, he looked out the window absent-mindedly, as if he had dug up some ancient memories. After a very long while did Uncle Chang murmur quickly, "Now that all 10 protector clans of the continent have emerged, the news of finding the winged tiger god has spread everywhere. And that tiger cub that once accompanied the 4th young master seems extremely similar to it. Perhaps it actually is the winged tiger god? Otherwise, with his strength, young master wouldn't be forced into such a situation. Master, you've already left for hundreds of years. There's not much time until the end of your life. Just where are you? If the ancestors learned that you left behind an unprecedented prodigy for the Changyang clan, I think those ancestors would forgive you and remove your punishment. They'll let you successfully become a saint ruler. As Uncle Chang murmured, 2 turbid tears rolled down his face. Jian Chen arrived at the small individual building where his eldest brother stayed. He saw his brother half lying in a wheelchair, being slowly pushed around the yard by a servant girl. "Big brother!" Jian Chen called out, directly making his way for Changyang Hu. "Ah, it's the 4th master. This servant greets the 4th young master." As soon as the servant girl saw Jian Chen, she was surprised and hurriedly bowed towards Jian Chen. "4th brother, you're finally back." Changyang Hu looked towards Jian Chen. An indifferent smile appeared on his face, yet his voice was extremely calm and without any emotions. Jian Chen quickly made his way to Changyang Hu and dismissed the servant girl. Afterwards, he pushed the wheelchair himself, taking Changyang Hu around the yard. Jian Chen glanced past the flowering shrubs and said softly, "Brother, I've come this time to say farewell." Changyang Hu smiled slightly, "Brother, why don't you stay for a few more days this time instead of hurrying off? Just how many days of these past years have you spent in the manor?" Hearing that, Jian Chen laughed dryly before pushing the wheelchair into the building. He said, "Brother, other than to bid farewell, I've come for something else this time. And that's to heal your limbs." Chapter 796, Healing Missing Limbs, Recover My Limbs? Changyang Hu stared blankly at Jian Chen and smiled, "Brother, have you already become a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master?" What Jian Chen had said did not cause his brother to display any emotions of happiness. Perhaps, to him his missing limbs were no longer a matter of importance. Jian Chen shook his head, "Brother, I still haven't reached Class 7 yet, but I do have the ability to recover your limbs. Brother, don't move. I'll send you to a certain place. Your limbs can be healed there." Jian Chen opened his hand and a palm-sized golden tower suddenly appeared. A white streak of light shot out from it, enveloping Changyang Hu and disappearing with him. Afterwards, Jian Chen was also enveloped by the white light and sent into the artifact space. Only the tiny golden tower was left floating in the empty room. The reason why Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters could regrow missing limbs or even revive the dead was because of the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force. Only the origin energy could do all that. Although Jian Chen had yet to reach Class 7 or obtain the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force, he had the Saint Artifact. If his brother was taken into the artifact space, the artifact spirit could easily heal him. Within the artifact, the hall that was destroyed in the process of breaking the ancient vow had already reappeared. Suddenly, there was a white flash of light inside and Changyang Hu, on his wheelchair and all, appeared in the grand hall from out of nowhere. Changyang Hu looked around the unfamiliar place. His eyes carried a sliver of blankness and curiosity. Before he could carefully look around there was another flash of light and Jian Chen, in his fighter-like tight blue robes, had appeared beside him. "Brother, where is this?" Changyang Hu asked out of curiosity. "Brother, this is another space. Only in here can your limbs be healed." Jian Chen smiled. "Master." A heavy voice resounded from his side. The artifact spirit had already appeared right next to Jian Chen like a ghost, without a single sound or sign. Jian Chen looked at the artifact spirit and said, "Artifact spirit, you'll be responsible for my brother's injuries." "Master, don't worry. Although my origin energy of Radiant Saint Force can't be absorbed by Master, it can be used to heal other people. Also, your brother's not very powerful and his body's rather fragile. If I want to heal his limbs, I will only need half a strand of the origin energy." With that, the artifact spirit made a pointing gesture. A strand of origin energy quickly condensed, shining with a dazzling white light. Is this the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force? Jian Chen could not help but narrow his eyes. This was the first time he had seen it with his own eyes. He felt that there were no major differences between the origin energy and Radiant Saint Force, both were of similar characteristics. However, he could feel an extraordinarily rich force of life in the origin energy, countless times more powerful than inside the Radiant Saint Force he could control. This was a leap in quality. The disparity between the two was like a chasm. After the origin energy entered Changyang Hu, a dazzling white light immediately rose up from his body, enveloping him inside it completely. Jian Chen's eyes flashed in interest. He stared fixedly at Changyang Hu wrapped in the white light. He seemed to be able to see through the extremely dense Radiant Saint Force to see exactly what was going on inside. Gradually, a sliver of joy appeared on Jian Chen's face from his excitement. Even his hands were tightly clenched. He could clearly see his brother's missing limbs regrow at a visible rate with the help of the origin energy. It lasted for roughly half an hour. The light around Changyang Hu slowly dispersed, revealing his burly body. Currently Changyang Hu remained on the wheelchair, but his sleeves and trousers were no longer empty. New legs and arms had grown. The new limbs had skin as smooth as a baby's bottom and were very thick, fitting extremely well with Changyang Hu's burly body. On the surface of his new limbs was the faint glow of white light. It was left over, unused Radiant Saint Force. The origin energy remained in his body. It could not be used by him, nor was it controlled by him, but it would bring unbelievable benefits. If he was heavily injured again in the future, this residue would come into great use. Changyang Hu looked at his newly grown limbs, but he did not become excited. Instead, his gaze became rather complicated. He stood up from the wheelchair with some stiff movements, and walked around a few times in the hall. He sighed softly, having it healed is good too. At least, in the future I can take care of myself. I don't need to be served by people. It'll be much more convenient. Having his limbs healed only seemed to be helpful to Changyang Hu's everyday life. That was the limit of it. Brother, you can keep cultivating in the future, Jian Chen said softly. He could not tell how his brother was feeling from how he was acting. Changyang Hu gently shook his head. No, I don't plan on cultivating any more in the future. Brother, I've seen through life these days. From your brother's perspective, even powerful fighters may not be able to lead lives as happy as ordinary people. Also, no matter how strong you are, don't you still end up the same as those ordinary people? Everything turns into piles of dust, dissipating along with the wind and disappearing forever. Even the 4 champions of the ancient times could not escape the corrosion of time. They've already vanished from this world. Jian Chen sighed secretly. He knew that there was a great change to his eldest brother after being traumatized this badly. He even doubted if the Changyang who currently before him was still the same brother who studied with him at Kargath Academy. His brother's limbs had all healed. This was supposed to be something that was worth celebrating over. However, with his brother like this he could not become happy no matter what. Jian Chen turned to the artifact spirit. Artifact spirit, can you revive people from the dead? Master, my limit is regrowing limbs. Reviving people from the dead is not something I, an artifact spirit, can do. This is because there's a need to learn the 3 soul-controlling techniques. One must use those techniques to condense the deceased soul, nourish it with the origin energy and then fuse it into the body. That is how the dead can be revived. The artifact spirit explained. Hearing that, Jian Chen furrowed his eyebrows slightly. He had stayed at the Union for quite some time, but he had never thought that there was a need for 3 soul-controlling techniques to bring back the deceased. Are you unable to learn the 3 techniques, even with your ability? Jian Chen asked again. The artifact spirit was bitter-faced and smiled bitterly. Master, there's a need to have a soul to practice the 3 techniques. This one is only the spirit from an artifact. I don't have a soul, so naturally I can't learn them. However, this one knows the way to learn the techniques. But only Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters with the origin energy can learn them. Once Master reaches Class 7, this one will tell Master the way to practice these techniques. A sliver of disappointment appeared in Jian Chen's eyes. He originally thought he could borrow the artifact spirit's power to revive his parents. However, he had never thought that 3 soul-controlling techniques needed to be mastered before any reviving could happen. Whatever, I'll put the matter of reviving my parents to the side for now, Jian Chen thought before taking his brother out of the artifact space with him. They returned to the small, lonely building. The two of them talked for 2 hours before Jian Chen bid farewell. During that time, Changyang who did not ask about the saint artifact at all. Perhaps some things were no longer able to cause him to become curious. Afterwards, Jian Chen visited his first aunt, Ling Long, and his second aunt, Yu Fengyang. After that, he left the manor. An hour later, Jian Chen arrived at a grand inn in the center of the city. The inn had only been opened for a few years, but it was the largest and most luxurious in the city. It was also the safest inn in the entire Lore City. No one in the entire kingdom, even the large clans, dared to make any trouble for the inn, let alone the people in the city. This was because all the people knew that the owner of the inn had an extremely deep relationship with the #1 clan of the kingdom, the Changyang clan. Also, her connection with the imperial protector of the clan, the 4th young master of the Changyang clan, was something else. If she was offended, it would be indirectly offending Changyang Xiangtian as well. As a result, the inn was famous across the entire kingdom even with only a few years of being run. Even outsider mercenaries and merchants would obediently hide away their arrogance, unwilling to act wildly while they were in the inn. Jian Chen found the owner and Sans in the inn, people whom he had not met for a very long time. He departed straight away after some casual conversation. Departing from the inn, Jian Chen directly left the city. Immediately, a voice boomed in his head, "Have you dealt with the matters at home?" "I've done it all, but I need to pop into where the flame mercenaries are," Jian Chen said with a rather gruff voice. "I'll take you there. Try to deal with everything within a day. I need to send you off the continent today. I fear that once it's been dragged out, the situation will develop more and more against you. The 10 protector clans are deeply rooted great clans. Although you are hiding your presence, which prevents them from finding you temporarily, you must not drag it out for too long. Once they use the secret techniques from ancient times, it doesn't matter where you hide." With that, Tian Jian directly split open the space to form a crack, taking Jian Chen away. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.